At 6, an evening of great company, great conversation, and a shared belief in the principles that made America exceptional. Seats are limited, and they will go fast. Reserve yours today at benefit.heartland.org. That's benefit.heartland.org. The Heartland Institute's 42nd Anniversary Benefit Dinner, September 3rd, Palmer House Hilton, Chicago. Don't just believe in freedom. Celebrate it.
This is Hugh Hewitt for townhall.com. Abdul El-Sayed is Hassan Piker, and Hassan Piker is Abdul El-Sayed. That's the bottom line for Michigan voters considering the race for the open Senate seat in the upcoming election. El-Sayed is the Democratic nominee. Piker is the progressive, regressive, transgressive Twitch streamer, vulgar, hate-filled racist streamer, an online ranter who hates blacks, whites, women with seemingly equal passion. He thinks the United States deserved 9/11. None of this is a hidden secret. El-Sayed attached himself to Piker's hip in order to win the Michigan Democratic primary. If El-Sayed somehow fools the Michigan electorate into sending him to D.C. in November, Piker will push aside Bernie Sanders and AOC as the key kingmaker in the Democratic Party. El-Sayed is going to be facing GOP nominee Mike Rogers, a 7-term congressman from Michigan. Working in Rogers' favor, Michigan doesn't want to become known for the craziest hater in the Senate since the Civil War. I'm Hugh Hewitt.
It's hard to deny the constant attack of negative emotions that flood us online. The fear, anxiety, worry, and confusion that come from the constant stream of news and social media can be overwhelming. There is a way to escape this never-ending cycle and find peace, hope, and joy in your daily life. Christianity.com, with a wide range of daily devotionals, biblical answers to life's toughest questions, and insightful Bible study articles from your favorite pastors and authors on current events and issues, Christianity.com provides a little heaven on earth. Go to Christianity.com now.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
When George Washington accepted command of the Continental Army, Americans were fighting a king and determined not to replace one form of unchecked power with another. Washington understood the difference between authority and ownership. In 1775, he declared, "When we assumed the soldier, we did not lay aside the citizen." Even as commander of America's army, Washington remembered that he remained one of the people and that the power entrusted to him was never his to keep. He did not fight to rule America. He fought so Americans could govern themselves. Washington's example gave the young nation something more than victory. It gave America a standard for leadership. Those who hold power must remain accountable to the people they serve, because in a free nation, leadership is not ownership. It is a duty and a trust.
What if the music stopped? If the familiar voices were silenced? If there were no breaking news updates? What if your companion and connection to your community came with a monthly fee? Don't worry, we're free local radio with you wherever you go, celebrating 100 years and looking forward to the next 100. We are broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and let Congress know you depend on your local TV and radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sun with a powerful thunderstorm arriving later in the afternoon. This storm could lead to heavy rain, hail, and strong winds. The temperature will reach a high of 80. Tonight, brace for another intense thunderstorm early on, followed by clearing skies with some clouds and muggy conditions. The low will be around 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from The Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So, Jimmy Tallarico, Low T Jimmy down there in Texas, the DSA Senate candidate, earlier this month on the Breakfast Club, that show with Charlemagne the God, where the leftist candidates, DSA types, parade before him to genuflect and engage in the same race hustles that he does. Jimmy went there. He's got to energize the black vote in Texas, and offered this hot take on the Carmelo Anthony verdict. Guilty of murder. The kid, you remember, who stabbed another kid in the chest, Austin Metcalf, killing him at a track meet. More or less, as the jury concluded, unprovoked.
In your state of Texas, we see what happened with Carmelo Anthony, and you said it was a tragedy.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
Well, I've done a lot of work in the State House on justice reform, and right now we've got a system that doesn't serve all Americans equally, and we know that black Texans have not gotten the justice they deserve in many cases. And I'm not an expert on this particular case, but I know that there were no black members of the jury. And to me, that's the only evidence you need to really prove that this system is not working for black Texans.
So an all-white jury would never look at the facts of a case. They look at the skin color of the defendant and they conclude he's guilty. Is that what you're saying? That was not the follow-up because he was among friends. But that's the implication of what he's saying. And it's old hat, I know, for the identitarian left, but I don't know. For some reason, it certainly rankles me every time I hear an idiotic statement like that. Fact-free, pandering, infantilizing statement like that. But it rarely goes challenged. Well, Carmelo Anthony is seeking a new trial. And some new information has come out that didn't come out at trial. There was this gentleman's agreement between the prosecution and the defense to not introduce character testimony against either the defendant or the victim. But that gentleman's agreement may be off if a new trial is granted in the case. And the judge in the case the judge who presided over the case has been dismissed by the chief judge, I guess, in the jurisdiction down there in Texas. But there is some character witness as it pertains to one Carmelo Anthony, the convict, that is worth taking notice of because, I think it cuts against the notion that race was the animating factor in the unanimous decision to convict Carmelo Anthony of murder. Fox News reporting.
Yeah, John, today we are hearing a lot of new evidence that was never made public during the trial, including details of what investigators found on Carmelo Anthony's phone and why it is that they believe he took a knife to this track meet last year in April. During opening statements, prosecutors revealed Anthony had a documented pattern of obsession with knives and guns. In one text message, Anthony allegedly fantasized about stabbing someone, writing, "When I stab somebody, I'm going to lick their blood off the blade." Prosecutors say they also have numerous examples of Anthony's desire to start fights and to be in fights, and they argue that's what he went to the track meet to do that day. The reason none of that came out at trial is that the defense and prosecution had what they're describing as a gentleman's agreement, an off-the-record understanding that neither side would go into character evidence, including allegations of violence and bullying by Austin Metcalf. Instead, both sides would focus on what happened under the tent the day of the stabbing. The defense now argues that Anthony chose not to testify in his own defense because at the last minute of the trial, prosecutors reversed course and told them if Anthony takes the stand, it would violate their agreement and open the door to all of those character issues being brought out. That agreement is a key part of the defense's argument as to why it is that Anthony deserves a new trial. And that's something we're going to continue to hear a lot more about through the rest of today.
Yeah, and into tomorrow, which is today, and we'll see if he gets that new trial. But I wonder what Low T Jimmy would have to say at it. I certainly hope Ken Paxton, particularly because he is unsurprisingly in a dogfight at present as we near the sprint to the finish, Labor Day to the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November here. I certainly hope he takes this up, this attempted race hustle by this eunuch honky named Tallarico, because the way that it casts black residents of Texas as well as white residents of Texas should be explored to the benefit of Paxton. I'd much rather make it about this sort of identitarian flimflammery than a referendum on Ken Paxton's character. You know what I mean? Opportunity is knocking. I hope the SRCC and the RNC and the Paxton campaign are paying attention to this opportunity that Tallarico has given them. Oh, and, the cast of characters is out. Maybe it's not quite as pronounced as in the Lindsey Clancy case, but I'd like to introduce you to the new Black Panther parties. The new Black Panther parties. Crystal Muhammad, who is out there rallying the faithful for a new trial for Carmelo Anthony.
The new Black Panther Party. And we're going to get their view on today's recusal of the judge.
Oh, Black Power, yeah. Well, it's about goddamn time. All power to the people. That's the first step. Now we need for Carmelo to be released. All of the racist acts that took place under Judge Roach, from them not letting people come into the courthouse when it's supposed to be a public hearing, from them not giving the jury instructions on self-defense, so Carmelo would have never got a murder case in the first place. He would have had the jury would have had the option of manslaughter from the racism.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if young Crystal Muhammad has a law degree or not, but it's not a particularly compelling case she made. And given what you heard from Fox News and the reporting in terms of what first of all, I would call into question that gentleman's agreement between the prosecution and the defense, playing a little racial politics themselves, but that's a separate issue. But based on what they retrieved from Carmelo Anthony's phone, well, sorry, Crystal.
Sorry I had a fight in the middle of your Black Panther Party.
Verlon in Michigan, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
You know what I'm tired of, Dan? I'm tired of the media, other than you and everybody else, skipping over intent. What was his intent? Bringing a weapon to a meet, a sports meet. I am so sick of people skipping over that. Why would you bring a weapon to a meet? Man, I'm a sports guy, and I participated in sports. I was a wrestler. Why would you bring a weapon to a meet, especially a meet like that? You're not in the inner city, I assume, with everything you all have been talking about for all of this time. What was his intent to bring a weapon there? If you were at Finger High School or the high school I was at, at James Bowen or wherever, at the worst schools ever in Chicago, what was his intent? You know, why?
Well, that's the whole point. This newly introduced evidence about from his phone about his fascination with knives and his desire to stab somebody sort of speaks to what he actually did to Austin Metcalf, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is crazy. And until people hear what you're talking about, what was on his phone, and his mindset, it's crazy. Why does race even play a part in it unless he was the racist, not the guys that talk to him? Listen, it boils down to this. If somebody came over to my bench where I was at when I was wrestling, it would be a problem. It would be a brawl. You can't do that. You know, why was he in their tent? Why was he where they were at? It's crazy.
He brought the fight and he brought the knife. There you go.
Thank you.
And by the way, Verlon, your favorite sports movie?
Favorite sport? Oh my God! What was that movie? What was that movie with the football players? It was the football players, and they laid down in the road, and you know, for the cars.
The Program.
The cars was. Thank you. I
really?
Think of the movie. Yeah.
Well, you're a wrestler. Yeah. How is it not Vision Quest? Because you're of the same age as I am. How is it not Vision Quest?
I don't know.
Did you see Vision Quest?
No, I didn't see.
Go see it immediately and report back to me on Monday.
All right. Cool.
Thanks, Verlon. Eli Steele on the topic too of Tallarico. This is important because it's not just. It's deeper than the race hustle, and Eli Steele gets to it. Tallarico's first claim that the system that convicted Carmelo Anthony is racist. He points out no black jurors. He knows that these are the only optics and he knows that these are only optics and evidence of racism, but that's all he needs in today's white guilt America. Tallarico's interest is not in proving Anthony's innocence. No one's is. No one who is prattling on mindlessly about this is. Their interest is in their own innocence, their own absolution, their own guilt. Tallarico then begins to signal his innocence of racism to the world by standing up to the very racism that he just created out of the optics. He's the good white boy. He gets away with this because his performance gives the white guilt whites their innocence. On the other side of the same white guilt coin, the blacks get their victimization validated. What is cruel is that the true victim here, Austin Metcalf, is erased to make room for Tallarico's fake innocence. And that's why the GOP and Paxton specifically should be taking up this opportunity that Tallarico has given them. Let's check the headlines with Mike Scott.
5:34, 63 degrees. Clouds and sun through the morning. There is a chance, mind you, of a thunderstorm this afternoon. 4 Chicago firefighters are recovering from injuries after battling a building fire on Chicago's southwest side. The blaze began yesterday in the 5400 block of South Justine. 3 firefighters are in good condition this morning. Deputy Chief Chris Serve.
The challenge was the amount of fire, the heavy amount of fire, and just the weather. You know, it's still summertime, even though it's a little bit cooler than it was a couple weeks ago. We're still talking 80 degrees. So, and the extensive overhaul.
The cause is under investigation. Plans to demolish the former Ford City Mall in Chicago are moving forward. The city's Plan Commission voted yesterday to approve a plan to demolish the mall and replace it with warehouses and distribution buildings. The University of Illinois Chicago is expected to respond to an Equal Employment Opportunity Commission finding that the school discriminated against 3 faculty members because of their Jewish religion. Dee Bitran is senior counsel at Stand With Us and said the EEOC found the same result with 3 different Jewish professors who all hired different law firms.
And that consistency matters. It shows that this wasn't just a personality conflict or misunderstanding between peers in a workplace. Rather, this exposes systemic anti-Semitism that the university had every opportunity to address and didn't.
Bittran saying UIC needs to update its policies to protect Jewish employees.
Federal civil rights laws, they don't just catch patterns like this. They hold institutions accountable for them.
UIC said in a statement it is condemning anti-Semitism and discrimination in all forms. Will County renewing agreements for use of Flock license plate reader cameras in several municipalities after heated debate before the county board. Intergovernmental agreements were forged with Mokina, Crete, Manhattan, Frankfort, Naperville, and Wilmington. After 9 days without electricity, NIPSCO now has a new timeline for power restoration for those impacted in northwest Indiana. Residents in Munster say it's not soon enough.
Almost immediately after Tuesday's tornado, the town recognized that recovery from this continuing emergency and disruption was beyond what our staff could accomplish in a timely manner.
Town council gathered with residents who demanded answers yesterday and vented frustrations.
There's dangerous conditions all around the blocks and streets in North Munster. There's no communication about plans to remove that debris. I can't send my kids outside.
The town council then approved a $1.2 million contract with a private debris hauler to speed up the cleanup and restore services. NIPSCO this morning says 45,000 customers remain without power. Both the Democrat and Republican parties held their annual campaign rallies at the Illinois State Fair this week. New campaign disclosures released this week reveal Governor J.B. Pritzker self-funded another $65 million to his campaign.
You don't want special interests buying politicians. You're trying to say that being wealthy somehow disqualifies one from holding high office.
Illinois Republican Party Chair Bob Grogan discussed his party's new approach to fundraising.
We hit the ground as far as working on the small dollar donors, and it is really, we're doing quite well.
And Democrats have decided it's Boston, Denver, and Philadelphia for the 2028 DNC. Democrat National Committee Chair Ken Martin saying Atlanta and Chicago have been trimmed off the list of potential final sites. White Sox blanked by the Braves 2-0 in a makeup game at the rate. Cubs begin a 6-game road trip tonight in Seattle against the Mariners. The Sox will host the Mets. Week 2 of the NFL preseason, Bears and Bengals tomorrow. The news, a service of Mattress Firm. Still sleeping on that old bed? Mattress Firm sleep experts help you choose the perfect upgrade. Shop today and save during the best sale of the year. They make sleep easy. Dan Proft in Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. And up next, check of the AccuWeather forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Gas prices in Chicago are riding like a roller coaster. They go up, they come down. Well, they come down a little bit, but then they go back up again. AM 560 wants to help ease your pain at the pump. Listen each weekday afternoon at 12:30 and 5:30 for the lowest gas prices around Chicagoland. And if you see a low gas price, let us know. Just text the word gas to 312-642-5600, followed by the price and location, and we'll share it right here on AM 560. The Answer.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team. Build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Temperatures are rising, and so are concerns about inflation, market volatility, and taxes. Revisit your financial plan this summer. VestGen Wealth Partners work with individuals to develop personalized plans that help navigate changing conditions with confidence. Visit GetRetiredStayRetired.com to learn more.
Advisory services offered through VestGen Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Private Client Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Private Client Services and VestGen Advisors, LLC are unaffiliated entities. Any information discussed does not constitute investment advice. VestGen Advisors and Private Client Services do not offer tax legal advice.
The TV tide is turning, and millions of Americans are tuning to Salem News Channel. For breaking news, common sense analysis, and the conservative voices leading the conversation, SNC delivers the stories that matter most. Watch Scott Jennings, Larry Elder, Mike Gallagher, and many others tackling the issues facing our nation. Stream free on Pluto TV, Samsung TV, the Roku channel, and more. Salem News Channel, the news you want, the perspective you trust.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sun with a powerful thunderstorm arriving later in the afternoon. This storm could bring heavy rain, hail, and strong winds. The high will reach 80. Tonight, anticipate another intense thunderstorm early on, then skies will clear up a bit, leaving it partly cloudy and muggy. The low will be 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling, stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from The Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. On the matter of our ongoing efforts to provide as much of a reckoning for the bad faith COVIDians as possible. We didn't get to Tony Fauci, but this week's guilty plea from David Morans is not nothing. It is not inconsequential. It is consequential. Former senior advisor to NIAID, that's where Fauci was, senior advisor to Fauci. And he pled guilty to concealing, to conspiring to defraud the United States by concealing records relating to COVID origins. And this was emails that he sent, one example of the emails he sent, that spoke to this cover-up when he was whistled before the COVID committee chaired by Dr. Brad Wenstrup, who's a congresswoman from Ohio. Back in the day, that ultimately sparked this deep dive when a new Department of Justice leadership team was introduced by the president who replaced Joe Biden.
On October 5, 2021, you wrote, "Peter, I just got news that a FOIA picked up an email I sent you saying Tony commented that he was brain dead. I deleted that email, but I now learn that every email I ever got since 1998 is captured and will be turned over whether or not instantly deleted." On June 28, 2021, you wrote, "Peter Daszak emailed me and Tony congratulating Tony on standing up for science. That email fell into the hands of the congressman, probably via FOIA, of someone who didn't delete it, as I did. Delete all of Peter's emails and others related to Origin. Mine was erased long ago. I verified that today, and I feel pretty sure Tony's was too."
And as Rand Paul posted on X after the news of the plea, "For years we were told the possibility of a lab leak at the Wuhan Institute of Virology was a conspiracy theory. Now, that sad little man's former senior advisor has pleaded guilty to conspiring to defraud the United States by concealing COVID origins records." So they were, again, gaslighting the public while they were conspiring to prevent any sort of discussion on the topic, any sort of revelatory information to inform the public's understanding and to keep people from going off the deep end and behaving in a barbaric fashion to one another over this matter of just accepting without question whatever line of bull jive was being propagated by the quote-unquote experts. There's more, though, on this. But first, on Morin specifically, it's sort of obvious, but I'm going to state it anyway. This was not some scheme that was being run around Tony Fauci. This goes straight to Fauci himself. Probably why he needed that comprehensive pardon that started in 2014 and went all the way to Biden's last day in office. In fact, Morin's emails indicate he discussed the problem with Fauci. And the group that's part of this discussion is also on record in these emails that were obtained by Chuck Grassley, making sure that a guy named Eric Stemme, who is the NIH program officer responsible for Fauci's Wuhan grant, has his story straight. In the last email in the chain, Gerald Kush of Boston University, who served as the back channel in these discussions to keep them outside government communication, adds that Fauci had specifically warned them about using Gmail to circumvent FOIA because if they access Gmail on a government device, the communication could still be discovered. So it was not a few subordinates sort of taking it upon themselves to keep these discussions and this information from, the public's prying eyes. Fauci's inside the discussions. So even if you can't ever get him criminally, you have him forever on the record, literally because of their own records, reputationally. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. But there's more. I'm sending this via text messaging to avoid any FOIA issues. That's Michael Osterholm, COVID-19 Advisory Board. That's admitting to a crime. And Michael Osterholm, who we had on the show once, you may remember him. He was fairly ubiquitous on cable news during the height of COVID. He's an infectious disease academic from the University of Minnesota. Seeking to avoid disclosure under FOIA by willfully hiding, removing, or damaging or destroying government documents is a crime. So again, if we can't get them on the substance of the policies that they conspire to impose, you can get them under the letter of the law for conspiring to keep public records from the public. This is Michael Osterholm, back in those heady COVID days when he was a celebrity.
We could pay for a package right now to cover all of the wages, lost wages for individual workers, for losses to small companies, to medium-sized companies, for cities, states, county governments. We could do all of that. If we did that, then we could lock down for 4 to 6 weeks. And if we did that, we could drive the numbers down like they've done in Asia, like they did in New Zealand and Australia. And then we could really watch ourselves cruising into the vaccine availability in the first and second quarter of next year and bringing back the economy long before that.
Lock it down for 6 weeks. I'm sending this via text messaging to avoid any FOIA issues. What did he send? Since April 2020, I've been consistent in my messaging about about the roles that aerosols play in transmission and the limited benefit that cloth face coverings play in reducing risk. The participants in the group text: Jeff, most likely Jeff Zients, then Biden's COVID coordinator, who later became his chief of staff. Vivek, most likely Vivek Murthy, who later became Surgeon General. Tony, that would be Fauci. And Rochelle, that would be Walensky. Back when Jen Psaki was the White House spokeswoman, she was asked about this. And Osterholm specifically.
Mask issue with Secretary Cardona yesterday. He mentioned that with Governor DeSantis, he was concerned about the EO he did regarding public schools on masks. And he said, we know what works. But one of the president's top COVID advisors, Michael Osterholm, just this recently.
Who's not a current advisor to the president.
Not current, no.
But was. So notable, right? Okay. He said in a television interview this week regarding mask wearing, specifically the cloth mask like so many of us are wearing here and what the kids are wearing in school, right, largely. He said that the scientific community has been doing a disservice to the public on face coverings. He said that cloth masks like these have very limited impact on the amount of virus that you inhale or you exhale out. And he also said that he's really disappointed in his colleagues for not making that more clear to the public. And that's sort of in line with the study that Governor DeSantis is citing as the basis for his executive order. So
I think you're confusing a few things there, but let me first say that Osterholm is not an advisor to the president, to the administration, to the White House. He doesn't work here. He's a private citizen and a public health expert, but a lot of public health experts are out there speaking, and good for them. I will say that we are going to continue to rely on the advice of medical experts in the federal government on what kind of masks we all should wear, what kind of masks kids should wear, and if they change that advice, then the Department of Education will be working with schools to make sure that's implemented as a mitigation measure.
I just don't want to leave people like Jen Psaki out of the reckoning. She richly deserves to be included. He's outside the government, so I don't have to address the substance of what he said. Because like Jacinda Ardern, the former PM of New Zealand, only believe what the government is telling you. Literally said that. We are the sole source of truth, the government. And by the way, not only so that parsing, that imaginary line she just drew where I don't have to address the substance of what anybody says if they're not inside the government and part of the task force. That's an interesting position to take. But that's not even true because we have this text message that those experts inside the government were talking to Osterholm about this very issue. And they didn't listen to him, so he was talking about it more openly. And he also, I mean, I'm not lauding Osterholm here by any stretch. Because he's, we need better masks and stuff. But it was fun to be reminded, hey, those cloth masks, that we're all wearing here in the press corps, and the kids are being forced to wear to no particular ends in schools, apparently. Hey, what's up with that? Whoa. The government experts say that's what we need to do. If the government experts change their mind, I'll let you know. John on the north side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer. Hey, John.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Yeah, I want to correct you on the pronunciation of this is Saki. It's a Greek name. It's very simple. It's Saki. That means sack of. Yeah. The first part is correct. So you'll know. The people should know. Her name means sack in Greek.
Sack.
And it's pronounced Saki. Okay? Have a good day.
Thanks, John. I appreciate the instruction. George in Naperville.
Yes, Dan, I think Fauci should be remembered as the slut of science.
That little slut, that little trollop, that sad little man.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Your local State Farm agent Anthony DeGrotto combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. You can combine your home, auto, and life insurance to not only save you money, but give you the peace of mind you've been looking for. Anthony DeGrotto is your go-to agent in Chicagoland. He and his team will work for you to provide the best service you expect at the price you want. Combine your home, auto, and life insurance today. Anthony DeGrotto will help you mix and match things perfectly. His State Farm office is a top pick 2024 Daily Herald Reader's Choice Award winner. He's a proud supporter of Tunnel to Towers and like-minded as you. His State Farm agency is currently looking to add members at their Roselle office. Call Anthony at 847-895-1500 today or visit DeGrottoSF.com. That's DeGrottoSF.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker and my new co-host,
Amy Jacobson,
on AM 560. We wanted you to know that we have a special show every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. here on AM 560, The Answer. It is Retirement Dakota with Scott Tucker and
Amy Jacobson.
It's every Sunday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. 2-hour show, 2-hour radio extravaganza. Amy, we're going to tantalize the listening public and the listening private with all kinds of retirement planning information. So tune in at AM 560 Sunday mornings at 7 a.m.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed. I wound up losing my home, losing my job, and on top of that, owing the IRS a ton of money. I owed the IRS $114,000. It really, truly was the worst part of my life.
Then Mark found tax relief advocates.
On news radio, I heard about TRA, and I thought, what's the worst that could happen? So I picked up the phone and I called them. When it was all said and done, TRA settled my $114,000 debt for $100, and I'm telling you, I was ecstatic. Could not believe it. Would recommend TRA to anyone.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Mark did and call TRA for a consultation.
But TRA did. They gave me a second chance, and I'm forever grateful.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 6 o'clock, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is very worried about his daughter Paloma going to Harvard. That and the suicide of Jason Arday, academic fraud, in our latest installment of Campus Beat. That happens at 6:06. It's now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers chartered the flight. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and 2 of its employees are among the 8 people killed when a small plane crashed in western Alaska. It had taken off from Anchorage.
Went down near Cape Newenham Long-Range Radar Site Airport, about 450 miles west of Anchorage. The site is part of a network of remote radar stations monitoring aircraft in and around Alaska's airspace. The NTSB is investigating.
That's Fox's Ted Lindner. A long deployment finally ending for 5,000 sailors and Marines on the USS Abraham Lincoln, finally heading home after more than 270 days at sea, and much publicized reports of mental strain on the crew and worsening conditions on the ship and other aircraft carrier replacing the Lincoln, as President Trump ratchets up financial pressure on Iran with what he calls an economic D-Day. As nuclear and Strait of Hormuz talks remain stalled, the president went on WABC radio again, insisting he had to take action on Iran, telling his ex-lawyer Michael Cohen's show,
"They were exactly 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon, and that's why I had to do it, because you cannot let them have that kind of a weapon."
A New York woman is behind bars. Jessica Bowie is accused of converting to Islam and then plotting an ISIS-inspired terror attack. Fox's Gernal Scott reports the target was the state capitol in Albany.
U.S. Attorney John Sarcone said Bowie is charged with providing material support to ISIS.
This defendant was radicalized online and spread messages of hate and violence.
FBI special agent in charge in Albany, Craig Tremoroli, quoted Bowie's intent to take down the building
and kill the senators while they are meeting. I want them to lose a lot of important documents as well.
There's damage to clean up after storms hit the Mid-Atlantic and East Coast. One person killed in Virginia in a lightning strike. A tornado caused destruction in Dover, Delaware. Another twister did some damage on New York's Long Island, and flooding in New Jersey led the drivers needing water rescues. America's listening to Fox News.
6:02 in Chicago, 61 degrees. Clouds and sunshine through the morning. Chance of an afternoon thunderstorm today and a high near 80. 4 Chicago firefighters are recovering from injuries after battling a building fire on Chicago's southwest side yesterday.
The challenge was the amount of fire, the heavy amount of fire, and just the weather. You know, it's still summertime, even though it's a little bit cooler than it was a couple weeks ago. We're still talking 80 degrees. So, and the extensive overhaul.
Deputy Chief Chris Serb. Plans to demolish the former Ford City Mall in Chicago are moving forward. City's Plan Commission voting yesterday to approve a plan to demolish the mall and replace it with warehouses and distribution buildings. After 9 days without electricity, NIPSCO now has a new timeline for power restoration. Efforts for those included in Northwest Indiana, and the update follows a gathering in Munster on Thursday where residents demanded answers.
There's dangerous conditions all around the blocks and streets in North Munster. There's no communication about plans to remove that debris. I can't send my kids outside.
The town council approved a $1.2 million private contract with a debris hauler to speed up cleanup. NIPSCO estimates they will not be able to fully restore power in the area until next Tuesday. 45,000 remain without power. A former Chicago public school principal and 2 others are going to federal prison for their roles in a scheme that defrauded 2 school systems and a nonprofit of more than $1 million. Brian Metcalf, Kimberly Maddox, and James Darnell Campbell pleaded guilty to federal wire charges. Prosecutors say all 3 schemed to illegally profit from various roles Metcalf held in the school systems in Chicago and Indianapolis, as well as a nonprofit. The fraud cost the city of Chicago taxpayers nearly $700,000. Chicago sports. Cubs back on the road. And they begin a 6-game trip in Seattle against the Mariners. Tonight, White Sox blank by the Braves 2-0 in a makeup game at the rate. They face the Mets beginning tonight. Bears visit Cincinnati tomorrow. The news, a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you. Visit 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. Atlantic Coast Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 613114. A check of traffic and weather coming up next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees the president fulfilling a promise.
There is a dramatic decline in violent crime in America.
He wants to make America great again, wants to make America prosperous again, wants to make America safe again. I've seen and been to enough rallies. That was in his DNA. He says it over and over again. Well, guess what? He's making America safer again. It's a fact.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
In a recent survey of 123,000 wireless customers, Pure Talk was the only wireless company to receive 5 stars in every category: coverage, support, value, and data. What else do you need to know? Switch to Pure Talk today and get any plan, including their top shelf unlimited data plan, for just $15 a month for your first 3 months. No contract, no commitment. Dial pound 250, say micro, and let Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team help you make the switch.
Do you struggle to fall asleep or stay asleep in a traditional bed? Experience Z-Cliner, the revolutionary recliner by FlexSteel. The Z-Cliner was engineered with restful sleep in mind. A healthy life starts with a healthy night's sleep. Z-Cliner is more than just a recliner, featuring custom power adjustments like recline, headrest, lumbar, heat, massage. It's a personalized comfort experience. Z-Cliner is a sleep solution backed by FlexSteel's durability that you can trust, delivering unmatched comfort, technology, and support. Discover the Z-Cliner by FlexSteel at Slumberland.
You've worked hard for everything you have: your home, your investments, your real estate. When you're gone, someone has to manage it. Choosing the right trustee or executor is one of the most important decisions you'll make.
We kept putting it off. We figured our oldest would handle everything.
Then we thought, what if something happens to him?
Or what if the kids can't agree? We've seen money tear families apart.
We called Home State Bank, and I wish we'd done it sooner. Home State Bank serves as trustee or executor for families across Northern Illinois, stepping in as the professional, impartial manager of your estate so your family doesn't have to carry that burden. They don't take sides, and they'll carry out your wishes exactly as you intended. Take the first step today by calling 815-459-2000 to meet with a trust officer face-to-face. Again, that's 815-459-2000. Home State Bank. Hometown professionals working together to build a stronger community since 1915.
Team Hochberg Traffic Center time at 6:07. I-80, an accident being shoved onto the left shoulder this morning, westbound at Larkin. I-94, Northwest Indiana, Porter County. You've got an accident with a left lane blocked westbound between US 421 and the Porter-LaPorte County line. And delays showing up already on the inbound Stevenson. You're on the brakes Harlem to Kedzie. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. And up next, a check of your morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sun with a powerful thunderstorm arriving later in the afternoon. This storm could lead to heavy rain, hail, and strong winds. The temperature will reach a high of 80. Tonight, brace for another intense thunderstorm early on, followed by clearing skies with some clouds and muggy conditions. The low will be around 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560. The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. This hourly segment is brought to you by The Real Story with Jeannie Ives and Amy Jacobson. Heard weekday mornings at 11 on AM 560. The Answer. Now, from The Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Cause they got the beat, the campus beat, the campus beat. Yeah, the campus beat.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Sean Duffy, you know, he's the transportation secretary. He's doing another reality show, which is how he rose to prominence in the first place. The Great American Road Trip chronicles Sean Duffy's 7th-month trek across the United States with his wife, Rachel Campos Duffy, and their 9 children. The second episode, dropping this week, finds the Duffys preparing to visit Boston to tour the colleges there on behalf of their 18-year-old daughter, Paloma. And dad and daughter have a conversation about the prospect of attending Harvard. Sean Duffy, very concerned. And his comments on Harvard are reverberating in the political sphere, suggesting he's bad rapping Harvard. Harvard hardly needs any help in diminishing its reputation, but here you go.
So I'm nervous about the idea of Paloma going to Harvard. We spend a lot of time nurturing and providing formation for our kids, giving them an environment where they are steeped in faith and values. And so the idea of dropping her off at a place that would undermine that or try to undo all those things makes me worried.
And again, I don't want them to get one viewpoint. I want them to get a lot of different viewpoints. But I don't want them fed only one viewpoint that's contrary to the way my kids were raised. Listen, my problem is we have thought about how we raised you and how hard we've worked to, I think, raise what is a remarkable young girl. If I send you there, I think what happens is they have professionalized figuring out how they can take good young girls like you and, I think, corrupt their minds. You don't have to believe what I believe. You don't have to have the political viewpoints that I have, but I do think it's important that you make those choices for yourself and you have a fair representation of what they are. And I don't think the Harvards of the world give you that kind of well-rounded picture.
But I went to an extremely conservative school in high school, and I'm part of an extremely conservative family. And that if I go to a liberal setting, that's a way more rounded education than if I go to a conservative high school and then go to a conservative college. That's just being kind of one-sided anyways.
But they're so good at it. You'll see young people go to a conservative school with a conservative family, and they get perverted and contorted.
Going to an Ivy League is like going to a cult, and we're going to have to deprogram you if we send you off to Cambridge. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. Call and text line. Perhaps from personal experience are Sean Duffy's and Rachel Campos Duffy's concerns well-founded. Also, the response that his daughter Paloma gave, that I went to a conservative school, and if I go to Harvard, that would provide more balance than if I went to another quote-unquote conservative school. Not that she has many to choose from in higher education, but there are a few quote-unquote conservative schools. I wouldn't really call them conservative schools. I would call them schools that are committed to classical liberalism. So it's not that they're political and they're in the business of promoting a conservative public policy agenda. It's a conservative or classical liberal approach to higher education. Those are the schools that's what schools like Hillsdale are doing. Conservative. They're not partisan. It's not partisan politics. They're trying to advance the flag for the Republican Party. They're trying to advance the flag for enlightenment, you see. That's what I would have said to her. So, the thing about Harvard or some of these other schools is, I get where Sean Duffy is coming from, both of them are coming from. And, we've all heard stories from friends, kids that have succumbed to the campus culture. But that's not the way I approach it. I'm not afraid of the Harvard professorate or the kids there. I think there are it's a larger dynamic, and something specifically that Evita Duffy said that, my mom always says that her job is to get me to heaven, not get me to Harvard. Right. So this is about preparing the kid for the road, not the road for the kid. And, if you have been steeped in quality pre-K through 12 education, then you'll be prepared to handle whatever intellectual challenges, intellectual infirmities are presented at Harvard or anywhere else. I mean, I'd be maybe a little bit more concerned about if I speak out, is she or he prepared for being ostracized on campus, getting a bad grade from a politicized professor, those sorts of things. But even still, The bumps in the road that you're going to feel, you're going to experience, even going to Harvard as somebody coming from a classical liberal point of view, pale in comparison with what life is going to offer you. So I don't know about the whole, like, I'm afraid you're going to get programmed and you're going to come back with, septum piercings and blue hair talking about the wonders of Betty Friedan. I don't know. Bob in Edison Park.
Dan, this has been a point I've been railing about for a long time. I think these parents oftentimes use, well, it wasn't my fault. The kid went so-and-so or went somewhere or the friends turned them. Through the grace of God and a great wife, my children all went to college. My daughter went to a major university, tiny blonde girl, and this was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She would go into that sociology class, and she would wag her tail like a pit bull going in the ring. She loved it. And I think if you base these kids, and it was, my kids had a full faith in God, and they went in and they had a identity. And I think this is what conservative parents don't give their children. You got to teach them from birth. This is who we are. Do you like the things we have? Do you like the things we do? I hear so many conservative parents as their kid comes home looking like an Antifa going, well, they had to learn on their own. Well, if you don't teach them, the media, the college, and every other force out there is going to. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Bob. Yeah, I mean, I generally agree with that. I think you can make individualized decisions, though, based on the kid. This is not categorical. It's like, what's the best environment for my kid's intellectual development? Some people are more combative than others. Some people, especially younger, have more confidence in going toe-to-toe with other kids on campus, and not to mention the professors. I mean, that's how I was on campus, too. I was, like, despised at Northwestern. But that's okay. I reveled in it. But, that's not for everybody. That experience, that college experience is not for anybody. I can understand that. Bill in Dyer.
Yeah. My daughter went off to an Ivy League school, and her politics are absolutely unrecognizable to me anymore. I have two children. One went to the local Purdue here, Indiana. He graduated with a bank account, a paid-off car, and an engineering job. And my daughter went off to the Ivy League and $50,000 in debt, and just unrecognizable as far as her politics. So
Thanks.
I wouldn't recommend it at all.
Thanks for the call, Bill. I mean, yeah, I'm not. This is certainly not promoting the Ivy League or Northwestern, for that matter. What's my pat line? Every time Northwestern is in the news, the value of my degree declines. They've been embarrassing themselves at least since they became Sex Toy University about a decade ago. They've lost control of the campus and the professor, just like most places have. We'll see if they can get it back. Doubtful. But there are some other dynamics. So the whole sort of like the monoculture on campus that will subtly or maybe not so subtly attempt to drive kids, assimilate kids and drive them in a particular direction, right? You will be assimilated by the campus Borg kind of thing. That's one thing. But there's some other dynamics on campus that make perhaps these allegedly elite schools less attractive than, say, a smaller liberal arts school that's committed to a real classical liberal education, so that you're prepared to be an academic killer coming out of college. And this is pointed up by a post from a math professor at Berkeley, Svetlana Stankova, on teaching calculus at UC Berkeley.
In spring 2023, I'm teaching Calculus 2. So that's second semester calculus course at Berkeley. I had something between 12 and 1,400 students in 2 classes, so a huge number of students. And for the first time, I noticed that about a third of them were disengaged with the class after week 2. They would not come to lecture. There would be missed quiz here, not submitted homework there. The first midterm was a disaster. I had never seen anything like this before. And don't get me wrong, we have still fantastic students at the higher end. But the lower end was so far behind, so many standard deviations behind, their classmates. So I, on the fly, actually had to redesign the syllabus to make it easier, more accessible. I introduced bonus points. I introduced polls in class just for participation. Come and answer these 2 multiple choice questions on your phone, and we will give you some credit. And even then, this bottom third did not come to class. I had to revise my grade cutoffs. I lowered them down in order to help students pass the class. And belatedly now, in retrospect, I find that this was a wrong decision. I should.
Yeah, it was. That's 3 years ago. And now, we've talked about the stories, including in the University of California, the California University system, where all of a sudden, all of those identitarian academics who capitulated to the idea that standardized tests were inherently racist, now they want them back. Because part of the discussion when you're talking about DEI-addled, quote-unquote, elite schools is not just what happens to people who shouldn't be there, but their impact on people who should. Like back in the day when it was more meritocratic. So now I'm going and paying these days $100,000 a year for Northwestern or an Ivy League school. And and if I'm qualified, if your kid is qualified, I'm being shortchanged because they let in a bunch of people for political reasons that prompt professors to do what this math professor at Berkeley did. So what's the value? Rather than go someplace that also has standards and has a robust curriculum and is not moving or dumbing down its course, the course content to appeal to the lowest common denominator, because they don't have a lowest common denominator. They're only accepting students that are prepared to do coursework at the next level. I mean, if people would just have listened to Thomas Sowell about 50 years ago, we could have avoided all this, but nobody listens. Steve in Hillside.
Good morning. The deception and violence coefficient in Matthew 24:24, if you present violence, you get resistance. But if you present deception, you get acceptance. They're teaching lies and they're deceiving everyone. Also related, in one of Nostradamus' quatrains, he says that the Antichrist will be a deceiver. He will say good is evil and evil is good.
Yes.
And that's what all of the DSA candidates are doing. The Senate is evil. The president is evil. But no prisons and no cops are good.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Steve. Yeah, I mean, right. That's right. The devil doesn't come as evil. He comes as a false good. Right. I get it. Bill, Northwest Side.
Yeah, the other problem by sending your son or your daughter to one of these Ivy League schools, you're feeding the beast. You're contributing to something that's going completely against your values. Why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Thanks for the call, Bill. Well, there's a lot of people that shouldn't be there. I think there's a slow slow turning, if you will, on the idea of that this credential means what it used to mean. So talked about big companies that are no longer requiring the BA as sort of a gatekeeping mechanism when it comes to considering employment. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that could be done. Actually, I didn't mind our friend Scott McKay's idea last week of making student debt dischargeable in bankruptcy. That's one way to do it if you can't get the government to stop subsidizing, get out of the student loan business altogether and stop subsidizing these institutions. I mean, I think the Trump administration has made efforts. Linda McMahon has made efforts to get compacts signed by leading universities, but it's really looking at it from the wrong end. The only thing they respond to is their financial wherewithal. And so if you have to figure out a way to get to that. And frankly, the government shouldn't be in the business. Federal government shouldn't be in this business of subsidizing. Get them out. Get them out of the loan business and put it in private hands and get them out of these hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in grants, particularly for those who are consistent bad actors. I'd like to see a little bit more attention paid in that direction. Or adopt the Scott McKay insight, or all of the above. Tom in Oswego.
Good morning, Dan. I got in late on the conversation. This isn't just an academic issue with kids in college. This is becoming a business issue. In other words, economic issue. I run a small business 37 years. And I'm finding that the quality of individuals out there that are looking for work or have even worked for me is so poor. Their skills are so low, either reading, speaking, the grammar is terrible. There's no problem-solving skills. And in my business, you have to think on the fly all the time because things change. And that's with a lot of small businesses. And I think that the poor quality of these individuals is starting to affect the guys who have been in the business a while because they're just getting disgusted with it. And that's probably myself. Fortunately, I only have a couple years left in this business, and then I'm done, and I'm off to Tennessee. But I feel bad for the youth or the younger guys who are starting businesses. And the quality out there of the employment, the pool of individuals is so poor. And I have customers that I see every day in their businesses, and I see their employees, and it's just really disheartening to see the just lack of interest in their jobs and their upward mobility. They just don't care as long as their phone works and they have enough money for rent and beer, I call it. That's all they care about. And it's a shame. It was different when I was growing up. You wanted to move out of the house, get your own house, maybe start a family. There's a lot of that. There's just no interest in that anymore. It's just, can I survive paying rent? Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Tom. There's this concept that Steven Pinker, who's a cognitive scientist at Harvard, but I mean, he's like an actual thinker. There are still a few of those left. This concept he calls pluralistic ignorance. And he was talking about this most recently in the case of the Jason Arday fraud saga at Cambridge across the pond there in the UK that we talked about last week. And it's sad that Arday took his own life after being exposed as this fraud. And maybe we'll get into a little bit later about the finger pointing going on now. But pluralistic ignorance. It happens when the expression of an idea is stigmatized or punished. So like anyone in the Arday case, he was plagiarist, fabulist, total academic fraud. But he was elevated by the powers that be in academia in the UK as the the world's most important sociologist. Complete joke. Pluralistic ignorance. When the expression of an idea is stigmatized or punished, so anyone expressing common sense incredulity about things like running 30 marathons in 35 days, anyone doing that, racist. Anyone suggesting that something amiss is with this guy is now characterized by some of these same people, aider and abettor of suicide. It's one of these popular delusions that McKay wrote about in the 1840s, Madness of Crowds and Popular Delusions, and Pinker's talking about too. The pluralistic, everybody knows that everybody knows, and so nobody says anything because of the prospect of stigmatization and punishment. This is sort of a distillation of cancel culture, but it's still very real, particularly in these cloistered environments on college campuses, which need to be cracked open. There needs to be a mentality change culture-wide, but since, to borrow from Andrew Sullivan, as I often do, we all live on a college campus now, maybe we go back to where this all started, and that's the incubators of enlightenment, or what they're supposed to be, and those are the schools from pre-K through post-secondary.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer. It's news, opinion, and insight at the speed of your life. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
62 degrees at 6:32 in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Intervals of clouds and sun today, a chance of a late-day thunderstorm. A charter aircraft carrying 8 has crashed at a remote radar site in western Alaska, killing all on board. The U.S. military confirms the crash happened near the Cape Newenham long-range radar site, approximately 450 miles west of Anchorage. And federal investigators this morning are releasing new details following Wednesday's deadly collision between a Pennsylvania police helicopter and a small plane.
Investigators say the pilot of a Cessna plane began flying erratically as it approached a Pennsylvania State Police helicopter at a small airport near Carlisle, about 110 miles northwest of Philadelphia.
Suddenly increased its pitch, severe nose up, did a left turn, leveled off again, and then flew into the back of the helicopter.
Aaron McCarter of the National Transportation Safety Board adds the 2 pilots in the helicopter survived the crash and appear to be recovering. The pilot of the plane was killed. He's been identified as Paul Sokolowski of Hershey. The NTSB says the investigation will continue. Tom Graham, Fox News.
A state of emergency declared in the capital of Delaware after the city was slammed by a large tornado overnight. Frozen blueberry recall is now in effect at its most severe risk level instituted by the FDA. The FDA put the recall in place for products sold at Publix supermarkets in early July. Customers are not to consume the blueberries. It is a Class 1 recall, a categorization that includes a reasonable probability that use or exposure will cause serious adverse health consequences. Flooding in central Ohio causing a town to evacuate. Ohio soaked by heavy rainfall Thursday. East of Columbus, the town of Buckeye Lake. A mandatory evacuation order put in effect last night. And a major interstate near Buckeye Lake, I-70, has been shut down in both directions this morning due to that flooding. 4 Chicago firefighters recovering from injuries after battling a blaze on Chicago's southwest side. 3 are in good condition this morning, according to Deputy Chief Chris Serb. and plans to demolish the former Ford City Mall in Chicago are moving forward. City's Plan Commission voting yesterday to approve a plan to demolish that mall and replace it with warehouses and distribution buildings. And a 55-year-old mystery in southern Illinois has finally been solved. In 1971, an Amtrak train going from Chicago to New Orleans derailed. 7 cars rolled over in Salem, Illinois. 11 were killed. This week, officials identified the remains of 2 who've gone unidentified since 1971, Catherine Marcellin and Gladys Adams. Cubs begin a 6-game road trip tonight in Seattle against the Mariners. Sox blanked by the Braves 2-0 in a makeup game, and they host the Mets later on tonight. The news service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. Subscribe free, 560theanswer.com/podcast. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Scott Jennings isn't standing for it.
Listen to this garbage human, John Ossoff.
He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
What we are learning from Democratic men right now is that if you're a conservative woman in politics, that you're nothing more than a concubine for some male politician.
The Scott Jennings Show, weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
Have you been watching gold and silver lately? Hard to ignore. Back in January of 2025, silver was under $30 an ounce, and now it's more than doubled. Again, not bad, right? Some experts say this bull market is just getting started. Others say it's a good time to take some money off the table. Either way, whether you're buying or selling, Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is the place to go. They stock large quantities of all the major bullion coins and bars. And here's what sets them apart. Unlike places that only pay melt value, Fox Valley Coins pays more for high-grade coins and scarcer dates. That's real money left in your pocket. They also buy scrap sterling flatware, jewelry, silver-plated items, and old proof sets. And they specialize in U.S. and foreign collector and investment coins and currency, both buying and selling. Fox Valley Coins, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at Ferry Road in Naperville. Family owned with integrity since 1981.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Hey, it's Sean Thompson. You know, one day it's market volatility. The next day it's conflict overseas. Price jumps, confidence drops, and suddenly retirement feels less certain. When the latest headline pushes costs higher and stokes inflation fears, it can have a ripple effect on your investments and your budget. But here's the thing. Retirement shouldn't depend on perfect timing or on the latest geopolitical noise. Tom Fortino and the Alpha Wealth Group help families right here in the Chicago area build a plan to create income you can't outlive, control taxes, minimize risk, protect your assets, and prepare an estate and legacy plan. It's their 5-pillar retirement planning. Ready to learn more? To get your complimentary retirement roadmap and a retirement analysis today, schedule a meeting with Tom Fortino and the people of Alpha Wealth Group by calling 630-864-6711. That number again, 630-864-6711, or online at alphawealthgroup.com.
The new All-Pro battery by Steel. Tackle any task with 60% more peak power. Exclusively available only at your local Steel dealer. 60% peak power comparison between AP300PC and AP300S.
640 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Rollover accident outbound at Harlem Avenue on the Stevenson Expressway this morning. I-80, accident left shoulder, westbound at Larkin. Your stop and go from the Des Plaines River Bridge. In Northwest Indiana, accident left lane blocked, westbound 94, right at US 421. Traffic, a service of ExpressPros.com. If you could work in logistics, you know nothing moves without you. Companies need skilled people now. Express Employment Pros can help you find contract, or full-time work that fits at no cost to you. ExpressPros.com. Get support, get options, and get to work. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. And up next, a check of the morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Clouds and sun through the morning. Chance of a heavy thunderstorm in the afternoon and a high near 80.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios.
Time now for another reason why Dan Proft is single.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yeah, gather around. Peachy Keenan, whose writings I enjoy, offered this question. Why are so many women so angry? They won. They got everything they wanted. Men have never been doing this badly, and women have never been doing this well. They make more. They have the majority of the jobs. They are the majority of college graduates. UCLA undergrad is 60% female. It's undergrads system-wide are 60% female. Just a point of order. They make more money. They have lower rates of suicide, addiction, and alcoholism, and live longer. Why don't men live as long as women? Husbands don't live as long as their wives. I'll let you fill in the punchline. They won. They took over all men-only spaces. They took over, no question about that, except a few men-only golf clubs. They took over the Boy Scouts. They ended men's bathrooms. They can fly fighter planes and be in combat. Marriage is optional. Divorce is no fault. They win 99% of the custody battles. They can control fertility at will, and they can't get drafted. We are all living in the female future they promised. So why so angry? Cheer up, ladies. And please, for the love of God, writes Peachy Keenan, do not hurt your children. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. Why so angry? Celebrate your victories. She goes on to add, we abolished or degraded beauty standards, body size standards, judgment, shame, unwed mothers, male-dominated workplaces, the male gaze, Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, Playboy, men's magazines, cheerleaders, supermodels, heteronormativity, and monogamy. Any unwanted touch or glance is prosecutable as a rape or assault. We even made it so inclusive that anyone can be a woman just by declaration. The list is endless. Will a list of new demands be published soon? Yeah. What are the remaining grievances, really? Marty in Naperville, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Well, Dan, they just did a study that 50% of all people in the world, in fact, mainly in this country, have a mental disorder. The other 50% are men.
Hi-oh. Actually, Pew Research from 2020, has a doctor or healthcare provider ever told you that you have a mental health condition? More than half of women who identify as liberal under the age of 30 answered yes. Pew Research. Huh. Now, women who identified as conservative under 30, just over 20%. Not great, but oh man, those angry Harridans on the left, yeah, the middle-aged ones you see outside that courthouse where the Lindsay Clancy trial is happening. I mean, they were like tip of the spear. Second, third wave feminists, they're just aged and got angrier, it would seem. Speaking of those women outside, I mean, some of these pink brigades that are outside saying things like this.
One of my sister-in-laws, it could be one of my best friends, and it could be me. So just here to support.
We are hearing her. We see that she tried everything. And I really do believe that she went into a state of psychosis.
It felt like the system failed her. She was begging for help and no one was there. I don't know if us being here will make her feel any better, but I mean, she's living in hell right now.
Uh-huh. The operative word as compared to her 3 children is living. It could be me. It could be me. It could be my sister, my sister-in-law. I could have done that to my children. Could you have? What does that mean? The redistribution of responsibility. Suicidal empathy. I mean, I know we talked about this a bit yesterday. I don't really think I'm missing anything. I have not followed this in great detail. Certainly not in the detail that the pink brigades outside the courthouse are following it. But there's so much being bandied about that is just not germane to the matter here. And so many, they just talk past what is actually being presented as the affirmative defense in the case. The husband did it. It's part of this. It's this conspiracy. It's part of this ring. And here's what's really going on. I mean, that's all very interesting. The defense has stipulated to the fact that she killed her 3 children. Stipulated to that. They are not raising the prospect of the husband being responsible. I suppose there's some implication that because of the SSRI drugs that she was on, that there is, that's part of what compromised her mental state or produced a psychotic break where she didn't know right from wrong. I suppose that's part of the affirmative defense, but they have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. You don't just get to say it as that woman said. I honestly think that this happened. Oh, well, okay, that's good enough for me. I guess we don't need a trial. We just let her go, or let her, go to a psychiatric institution and have some politicized therapist declare her, cured a few months from now, and then we all go about our business. I mean, the sentimental barbarism on display here is really something to behold. It is actually something to behold, to take judicial notice of. Grant in Algonquin.
Good morning, Dan. I'm so glad to hear your voice. You've got the best show all around.
Thank you.
Don't know what I'd do without you. But anyway, so we've got 2 generations of females who keep hearing from Disney, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be happy. You're the princess, and they believe it. There's no personal responsibility, no accountability. There's they will leave a good man just so that they have a chance to be happy. That's my input.
Thanks for the call, Grant. Anthony and Joliet.
Thanks for taking the call. Why are they so angry? Because most women are never satisfied. Move the dresser here, no there, no here. Paint the kitchen white, never mind, yellow, oops, orange. They're never satisfied.
All right. Thanks for the call, Anthony. Lee and Hammond.
It's not just women, it's men too. We're in a society here in this country
where the whole idea of fulfilling the roles that God created you to do, women being the nurturers, men being the breadwinners, that's out the window. It's all about self-gratification. It's all about me. And then when you're 50, 60 years old and your life is pretty much gone, you look back on that and you've got nothing to actually develop any self-fulfillment for. It's all about just living a moment. It's all about me. So don't just blame women. It's men, too.
Thanks for the call, Lee. Glenn in Orlando.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. Thanks for taking the call. So these women in pink, are they Candace Owens 2.0? What the heck is going on? This irrational behavior. It's amazing.
Thanks for the call, Glenn. Women are required, text from 262, women are required to register for the draft now and have been for about a decade. They cannot be drafted. That's the law, as far as I understand it, as of this year. Yeah, you may check your facts. Actually, let me cite it right now. U.S. Military.org. Women cannot be drafted or not required to register with the with the Selective Service under current law. Only men aged 18 to 25 must register. Congress considered requiring women to register as part of the NDAA in 2024, but the provision was removed from the final legislation signed into law. Yeah. So, no, you got it wrong. Okay. I'm glad I'm not sight reading some of these texts. Let me just put it that way. Yeah. So this is the sort of the female dynamic here too. I don't know if I don't watch White Lotus, but I saw this clip bouncing around. This is part of the female dynamic. I don't even want to be a part of. And yet even the women who are sensible, so many of them get like enveloped in these covens of angry women who put on a happy face, but are real destroyers, real relationship destroyers. I thought this was actually nicely captured. I don't think it was the intention of White Lotus to make the point I'm making, but I think they did. Take a listen. And by the way, I'm not recommending the show either, but this exchange, all of these leafy suburbs that have been conquered by the Rothfuls, this is an insight.
I didn't know you went to church.
Oh, yeah. We go every Sunday. Yeah, ever since we moved to Austin.
Is it like a real Texan church? Like with Bible thumpers and...
Well, the people are, more conservative than like LA people or like New York.
Mm-hmm. Is that weird for you?
Why would it be weird?
I don't know. If I was just around a bunch of Texans who voted for Trump, I guess I'd just feel a little alienated.
They're nice people. Really good families.
Cool.
But do you ever talk politics with them?
Sometimes.
Oh, it doesn't get awkward?
Why would it?
Because. Wait. Are you a Republican?
No. I'm an independent. But Dave is.
An independent?
Mm-hmm.
Since when?
You didn't vote for Trump, though, did you?
Are we really going to talk about Trump tonight?
Harry, Hawthorne Woods.
Hi, yeah, this, as I said to your call answer, this brings to mind the old maxim, be careful what you wish for. They're so angry because they got all the things they wish for, many of which are antithetical to their existence in society. And I can see how that could do nothing but bring unhappiness to people, but then they can't face the consequences of what they've wished for due to the cognitive dissonance of having to look in the mirror and go, you know what? That was wrong, a lot of what we wished for.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Harry. No question. Sort of Pyrrhic victories. I mean, I also think to some extent, like, you go around destroying institutions and organizations like marriage and organizations like the Boy Scouts. I mean, you really think that's going to be satisfying? That's going to be something that engenders a light. They're like sort of totally politicized. And as we've talked about many, many times, it's one-dimensional. Everything has to be force-fed through the political prism. And it's just a very low-brow, myopic, sort of brutalist way to live. Because there's no time to see the beauty in anything. It all has to be part of some larger power dynamic. All the things that they wanted. Too, all the things they wanted were vis-a-vis men and this alleged patriarchy that they were suffering under. Well, exactly. Now you're, free to soar as high as your wings will take you. How you doing?
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
When George Washington accepted command of the Continental Army, Americans were fighting a king and determined not to replace one form of unchecked power with another. Washington understood the difference between authority and ownership. In 1775, he declared, "When we assumed the soldier, we did not lay aside the citizen." Even as commander of America's army, Washington remembered that he remained one of the people and that the power entrusted to him was never his to keep. He did not fight to rule America. He fought so Americans could govern themselves. Washington's example gave the young nation something more than victory. It gave America a standard for leadership. Those who hold power must remain accountable to the people they serve, because in a free nation, leadership is not ownership. It is a duty and a trust.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Croscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Croscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Croscom.
Call Croscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Croscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Croscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Croscom.
Croscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Croscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CroscomPublicAdjusters.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:07, we'll talk a little bit of Middle East. We'll talk maybe a little bit of the Academy. Taki Theodorakopoulos. It's now 7 o'clock on AM 560.
She praised Allah for 9/11.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The New York woman accused of plotting her own terror attack in Albany, now jailed after making her first court appearance.
She had a lot of social media profiles and was prolific online, espousing anti-American beliefs.
That's FBI Special Agent Craig Tremoroli.
35-year-old Jessica Bowie allegedly, ideally, wanted to blow up the White House in an ISIS-inspired attack, but she chose to target New York State Capitol instead because it was, quote, the biggest political building she knows of in the area. Authorities say Bowie had been radicalized online and had pledged allegiance to ISIS in May. Investigators say she intended to use a DoorDash bag to conceal the bomb once it was made. On August 19th, Bowie was arrested holding the weapons.
That's Fox's Madeline Rivera. As President Trump plans what he calls an economic D-Day to do more financial harm to Iran in the conflict, 5,000 sailors and Marines are finally getting a much-needed break as the USS Abraham Lincoln's deployment ends, replaced by another aircraft carrier.
The Lincoln's been at sea for 272 days, and it's still got a long sail ahead, with 13,000 miles to get from the Arabian Sea to San Diego. Concerns about the Lincoln have been growing, with reports of a stressed-out crew, bad plumbing, and supply shortages. Several Democratic lawmakers have pressed the War Department for details on the Lincoln's conditions.
Fox's Jill Nato. Investigators in Alaska trying to figure out why a small plane crashed after a takeoff flight from Anchorage. 8 people killed.
The crash happened at Cape Newenham Long Range Radar Site Airport. That's 450 miles west of Anchorage. U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Robert Davis reacted to the deadly crash, saying, quote, "This is a devastating loss for our military family and the communities we serve."
Fox's Marianne Rafferty. The flight was chartered by the Army Corps of Engineers. America's
63 degrees at 7:02. I'm Mike Scott in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A chance of a heavy afternoon thunderstorm. Plan for it with a high near 80. A man found dead inside a Southside home early this morning. Chicago police say officers found the 27-year-old in the Stony Island Park neighborhood in the 8500 block of South Constance around 1 a.m. 4 Chicago firefighters are recovering from injuries after battling a blaze yesterday on Chicago's southwest side.
The challenge was the amount of fire, the heavy amount of fire, and just the weather. You know, it's still summertime, even though it's a little bit cooler than it was a couple weeks ago. We're still talking 80 degrees. So, and the extensive overhaul.
The building was vacant. The cause of that fire is under investigation. Plans to demolish the former Ford City Mall in Chicago are moving forward. City Plan Commission voting yesterday to approve a plan to demolish that mall and replace it with warehouses and a distribution building. The University of Illinois Chicago expected to respond to an EEOC finding that the school discriminated against 3 faculty members because of their Jewish religion. Didi Bitran is senior counsel at Stand With Us.
And that consistency matters. It shows that this wasn't just a personality conflict or misunderstanding between peers in a workplace. Rather, this exposes systemic anti-Semitism that the university had every opportunity to address and didn't.
The EEOC found the same result with 3 different Jewish professors who all hired different law firms. UIC said in a statement it condemns anti-Semitism. Will County is renewing agreements for the use of Flock license plate camera readers in several municipalities. An intergovernmental agreement has been forged with Mokina, Crete, Manhattan, Frankfort, Naperville, and Wilmington. Chicago sports. A win for the Braves over the White Sox, 2-0 in a makeup game at the rate. Sox host the Mets later on tonight, while the Cubs are in Seattle. 5 players on top of the leaderboard after round 1 of the BMW at Bellerive in St. Louis. Gary Woodland and Wyndham Clark, along with Rory McIlroy, having the best of days. The news, a service of Woodland Windows and Doors. See Marvin Products in their beautiful showroom at the corner of Lake and Gary and Roselle, or visit woodlandwindows.com for a free in-home expert consultation. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Alex Marlowe sees a positive on the jobs front.
Government jobs fell as usual. They fell 53,000. 53,000 public sector jobs are gone. That's a positive. Private sector payrolls rose 30,000, which is kind of low, but a lot of those jobs were added in construction and manufacturing. We're seeing a manufacturing renaissance in this country.
The Alex Marlowe Show, afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
You know that feeling when you call your insurance company and you know that you're getting put into queue? Nobody wants to go through that, specifically Tommy and TJ Iaquinta with Class A Insurance. They're a father and son team built right here in Chicago's southwest suburbs on one idea: treat people like family. See, because they're independent, they're not stuck in pushing one company policy on you, one company rates on you. They shop the best carriers in the country, names you'd recognize, and find coverage that actually fits your life, your home, your car, even your boat and motorcycle. That's why they've been named one of the top 25 home insurance agencies in Chicago. 2 generations, 1 agency. And clients that stick with them for years. When something happens and claims happen, Tommy or TJ is the one who picks up the phone and walks you through the process themselves. If you're paying for a policy you don't understand from a company you never talk to, it's simple. Head to 560insurance.com. That's 560insurance.com. Get a free quote in minutes at 560insurance.com.
Do you hear that?
Is that circus music?
Ladies and gentlemen, behold, the 8th wonder of the world.
What are you doing?
Step right up and see the magnificent Beck sofa at Penny Mustard.
The Beck sofa is pretty awesome, but why are you acting like a carnival barker?
Ever seen a little car at the circus?
You mean a clown car?
With clowns that keep climbing out one after another?
I don't know how they do that.
Exactly. The Beck sofa is Penny Mustard's clown car.
How so?
The Beck's appears to be a petite, apartment-sized sofa.
Yeah.
And yet, it comfortably seats several people, one after another.
That's why the Beck's is so popular. It fits in tiny spaces.
But it can hold contortionists, lion tamers, and the ringmaster, too.
Step right up and see the Beck sofa, starting at $19.77 at Penny Mustard.
Now open in Algonquin.
PennyMustard.com.
Better versions of what people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
.707. Let's get an update on the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. We're going to start on the South Shore Line. Commuters there, delays are up to 1 hour with an earlier incident on the cars, with a car on the tracks near Gary. Some trains are combining. All trains are experiencing delays. It's just another day of delays on the South Shore this morning. Same story on the CTA Red Line. Trains are stopped completely at the moment due to door problems on a train right at Fullerton this morning. Indiana I-94 westbound, an accident, left lane blocked, and eastbounders, you will find delays as a crew has showed up to make emergency repairs to a median wall damaged in that westbound crash. Reagan I-88, an accident, now blocking 2 right-hand lanes eastbound right at I-355. Traffic, a service of Salem Surround. Go to surroundchicago.com today. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. And up next, check of the morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center with Jason Caterina.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sun with a powerful thunderstorm arriving later in the afternoon. This storm could lead to heavy rain, hail, and strong winds. The temperature will reach a high of 80. Tonight, brace for another intense thunderstorm early on, followed by clearing skies with some clouds and muggy conditions. The low will be around 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560. The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from The Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, that is, provided some color on the president's approach to the Iranians. Regime decapitation through economic isolation.
And again, we have asymmetric information, and I'm not sure why oil has popped up on this, because this, for now, and it is at the president's discretion. If we are doing the maximum economic pressure, then that means that likely there will not be a large-scale kinetic restart, but I would emphasize that is for now. And look, we do have control of the strait. You would have seen media reports that large amounts of energy are getting out, and I think that we can continue doing that in the southern lane, and that I think oil markets are misinterpreting what this economic pressure means. The economic pressure means that we are going to all of our allies, and this is going to be the greatest coordinated economic isolation in the history of the world. And we are going to them and saying, you are either with us or against us. You want this murderous regime to end. And if you insist on doing business with them, either transferring money, buying their oil, they're doing seaborne ship transfers, then the U.S. Treasury and the U.S. government, they will put its full might and force toward enforcing against you. So it is time for our allies and the rest of the world to make a decision, and we are going to squash the economy of this murderous regime.
Taki Theodorakopoulos, a longtime Spectator columnist, co-founder of the American Conservative, and author of the new book, The Last Alpha Male, The Amorous Pursuits and High Life of a Poor Little Greek Boy. Taki, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. How are you?
Good, good. What do you think of what the Trump administration is doing, what Bessent had to say about the economic isolation, allies and non-allies alike? If you do business with Iran, we're going to drop the hammer on you.
The funny thing is, Scott Bessent, I don't know him. Never met him, but he lives in my building in New York City.
Really?
And so we get a little bit more of a security. He seems like to be a gentleman. He's there with his husband or boyfriend, whatever you call it. Anyway, well,
I mean, but wait,
1921.
No, I get it.
2021.
But before you go on, but are you guys are both subject to the pied-à-terre tax? I hope you're saving up.
Well, I live in New York, or so I will claim, and my pied-à-terre is here in the Alps, where I'm speaking from now.
Oh, very good. Oh, very wonderful, beautiful, nicely played. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I wish what Bessent said. I wish the Americans or America had done that, or Donald Trump had done that from the beginning before killing those 200 children they did by bombing the wrong place. I think that Netanyahu has taken Trump for a ride, and maybe if they had done that from the beginning, try to squeeze him economically, he would have been a bit more humane instead of bombing the hell out of a country that's already in very poor shape, and try to get them to come around this way. I don't know what is our point of attacking? I've never been a Persian fan. I went out with Soraya, the first wife of the Shah, his ex-wife at the time. She was a very pretty, voluptuous woman.
Oh, boy.
But I mean, I never, we Greeks, the ancient Greeks, which I'm afraid I'm part of now, becoming an ancient Greek, we beat them through. I mean, we beat them twice in Greece, in the Marathon and in Salamis. Then when Alexander the Great went over, he didn't destroy Persia. He married Darius' daughter, who was the emperor. So that was a positive thing to do. I don't understand why we have to fight Iran. They're not my favorite people, but they are human beings, have never done anything to America.
Well. I mean, never done anything to America. That's a bit of a claim that stands athwart the evidence, doesn't it? I mean, I'll start with the barracks bombings in '83, but we could go on from there.
What are they responsible for that? I'm not, as I said, I'm not an Iranian fan, but look. Very quickly, and my grandchildren were laughing the other day. In 1953, Iran had a democratically elected government for the first time ever. What did we do? We sent over a very charming, very good-looking, attractive young man called Kim Roosevelt, whose grandfather and his uncle were both presidents of the United States. And what did he do? He knocked over Mossadegh, and we brought in the Shah. We all know the rest. Why didn't we allow Mossadegh to have Iranian oil for its people? Iran, after all, it was their oil. I'll tell you why, because the oil companies wanted the oil for themselves. So basically, it started then. In 1953, when we knocked over him, I remember laughing at him because he used to go outside and address the people in his pajamas. And I remember my father thinking it was something not done. Well, there are worse crimes than addressing people in pajamas. But
yes, but I mean, just fast forwarding to the revolution and the Shah being deposed and the Ayatollahs coming in. I mean, the last 5 decades, Iran has been, I think, pretty convincingly documented the lead state sponsor of terror in the world.
Yes, they have.
So that's an issue. Yeah.
It's definitely an issue, but I always go to the source, and Iran was neutral in the war against Germany. We sort of almost overran it, meaning the West. We knocked over, again, a democratically elected president because he had nationalized his oil. It all starts with oil. It all goes back to money. And, of course, the mullahs who came in, the Iranian people welcomed them. They didn't turn out to be as nice as they pretended to be. Still,
imagine.
I still think that Netanyahu took Trump down for a ride.
Well, and Trump.
I
mean, forget my opinion. Trump would dispute that pretty vociferously, and Trump seems to be a guy who marches to the beat of his own drum. You know what I mean?
Yeah, his own drum. That's for sure. I'm just sad about people suffering in Iran. Because basically the Ayatollahs are not going to suffer, as the heads of state never do, or the ones around them. But
I understand,
but people are suffering like hell.
Well, I know, but they're also suffering under the Islamist totalitarianism of the Ayatollahs, and about
that's for sure.
An estimated 35 to 50,000 of them were just murdered earlier this year.
Yes. Well, all right. I'll grant you that. I'll grant you that. I don't know about those numbers. They get sort of inflated.
I don't either, but I'm just going based on reports.
Still, absolutely, you're right. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that the Iranians are the good guys and we're the bad guys. Certainly not. But I wish my conscience was completely clear. Speaking as an American now, that we didn't provoke a lot of those things. Anyway,
that's okay. It's fair.
We switch the subject to the good guys like the White Sox and the Cubbies. It's strange. I like the White Sox. Now they're leading in the league, and I love the Cubbies because of their stadium instead of that crap they're putting up today. And all right.
Well, we'll invite you out to Hammond, Indiana, when the Bears build their new stadium, so you can see what that looks like.
Oh God.
I want to get your take on the Jason Arday scandal and unfortunate suicide.
Yes.
One of the things
I wrote a column about it.
I know.
Wrote a column about it. He was completely exposed, but. In retrospect, and of course we all feel very sad that he did, why he was promoted by people trying to promote a person who was certainly didn't have the credentials to be a full professor at Cambridge University, one of the great universities of the world. They had to do it because they wanted to show that black man can be the equal of the white man, which of course they can, but he wasn't the one. And like all fantasists, this poor man, he couldn't take it. He was exposed. He overdid it. And of course now they're all screaming to hell that it was the press that, the ones who exposed him who are responsible. No. The ones who are responsible are, first of all, the ones who promoted him, knowing full well that he couldn't have done those things he claimed to have done.
Yeah. So one of the things you sort of partially answered it, but I'm not totally satisfied. So let me explore this.
Of course.
You wrote, all I can say is that Cambridge has produced more than 100 Nobel Prize winners, yet accepted conman Arde's undistinguished plagiarized work. Why? And you gave part of the why. They want to elevate and see that the black man can do anything the white man can do, which I agree as well. But Cambridge, as you just said, Cambridge University is one of the marquee universities in the world. They can't get a legitimate black academic. They can't get a Roland Fryer or a black person in any discipline they want that's actually legitimate and has a record of scholarship that would merit consideration for a professorship at Cambridge. Why this guy?
Yeah, well, look at America, my dear Quentin. Look at America. I love Thomas Sowell, and I'm a great fan of Clarence Thomas. What does the black community call them? Uncle Toms. So it's really painful to see a great man like Thomas Sowell and a very, very good man like Clarence Thomas to be called Uncle Toms. So they can't win somehow. If you're a black man and intellectually inclined, if you win, you're an Uncle Tom. If you get caught, you end up like Jason Arde. Too shameful. He had to. I mean.
Yeah, but but here's the thing. Like Glenn Lowry is econ professor. I think emeritus now at Brown University. John McWhorter, linguistics professor at Columbia. Those are Ivy League schools. I just mentioned Roland Fryer, economist, economics professor at Harvard. So
they're all very good.
And they're all very good. And so why do you have to do what Cambridge did? There's like another dynamic at play, and I'm not sure I know what it is. But it's like,
Neither do I.
Why?
I agree with you.
It's mystifying to me. It's so sloppy.
Because he was so good, too good to be true, and the things were outrageous. In other words, it was so easy to find out that he hadn't published the book and he hadn't done that work, and he hadn't run 30 marathons in 35 days, and he didn't. And but it was just sloppy, as you say, sloppy, lazy, typically British. The hell with it. Let's make him a professor very quickly. I mean, look at the headlines today. The biggest headlines, much bigger than the day after Pearl Harbor, much bigger. I shall return of Douglas MacArthur. Just a couple, a man called Harry and a woman called Megan, have decided to come back because it's more profitable. All the papers are writing about them. It's all exactly sloppy and BS, and I don't want to go on about it because
it's too dismal. I agree with that.
Dismal. Yes, exactly. The world is going down, Swanee, and they're talking only about a couple that's out for themselves, and a balding, middle-aged, red-headed boy whose mother unfortunately died 30 years ago next year, and a lady who's trying to do the best for herself, trying to sell her house. She's 45, going on to 46, and the world has gone mad because, as we said, Jason Arde was obviously a very talented and very good man, but he decided to write all this total BS, and they fell for it only because of his color. And a man shouldn't be judged by his color anymore. At least that's what we've decided the last 50 years, and correctly so. But that's the modern world for you. That's why I'm very happy
to
be
hang out in
90
the
years
Alps.
old.
Yeah, and to hang out in the Alps.
And hang out in the Alps. but I still
Taki Theodorakopoulos, longtime Spectator columnist, co-founder of the American Conservative. The new book, The Last Alpha Male, The Amorous Pursuits and High Life of a Poor Little Greek Boy. Taki, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. All the best.
And the best to you. Taki joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If you've saved $100,000 or more for retirement, call Steve Shyman today at 833-945-7283. That's 833-WILL-SAVE. 833-WILL-SAVE. Schedule your no-cost, no-obligation retirement review and make sure your plan is built to protect what you've worked so hard to earn. And don't forget to listen to Steve's show, Protecting Your Assets, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. right here on AM 560. Call now, 833-945-7283.
Signature, a division of Esquire Bank, offers Chicago businesses relationship-first banking. Signature knows your name and your story because personalized banking still matters. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature is where I do my business banking.
Hi, I'm Tony Patrick, CEO of Total Wall and a client of Signature. We produce high-performance materials used in exterior insulating finish systems and other stucco applications. Every growing business needs a strong team behind it. Over the years, Signature has been more than a financial partner. They've shared their knowledge, offered guidance, and connected us with trusted professionals who help strengthen our business. They're a valuable extension of our team and a true partner. That's why I value my relationship with Signature.
Signature helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature, a division of Esquire Bank, at 773-467-5600 or visit signature.esquirebank.com. Esquire Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
The following contains a celebrity impersonation.
Mr. President, we're seeing reporting that air conditioning systems are failing as temperatures rise. What is your response?
I said, don't wait. People wait until the last second, then suddenly it's hot and nothing works. I understand this stuff probably better than anybody.
Mr. President, why hasn't the White House issued any guidance?
I gave perfect guidance. Call Air Right Heating and Cooling. That's the guidance. If people followed it, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Sir, but homeowners have so many HVAC options.
They're not like Air Right. You've got some bad installers out there, some real bad hombres. I wouldn't let them near the White House. It would be a complete disaster.
Mr. President, there are reports of significant rebates on new systems. Can you confirm?
I've heard about them. A lot of people talking about them. If you miss out, you'd have to be really not so smart. Tremendous savings, let me tell you.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling at AIR-RITE.com. Air Right, doing it right since 1959.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer Line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
The TV tide is turning, and millions of Americans are tuning to Salem News Channel. For breaking news, common sense analysis, and the conservative voices leading the conversation, SNC delivers the stories that matter most. Watch Scott Jennings, Larry Elder, Mike Gallagher, and many others tackling the issues facing our nation. Stream free on Pluto TV, Samsung TV, the Roku channel, and more. Salem News Channel. The news you want, the perspective you trust.
I'd like to tell you about a man named Phineas who as a child survived the Holocaust. Phineas survived because Christians hid him from the Nazis, risking everything to save his life. Today, Phineas is in his 80s. He can no longer stand on his own or even leave his home to receive medical care. And when sirens sound and missiles fall, he doesn't have the time or the strength to reach safety. But once again, Christians are helping to save his life. Through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, a mobile clinic brings doctors and medicine right to Phineas's doorstep, providing care that he otherwise would not receive, especially during a time of war. Phineas said, "Christians saved my life during the Holocaust, and now again, they are helping me." As Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day approaches, remember these precious children of God by lifting them up in prayer, asking for his protection, his comfort, and his peace. Stand with Israel in prayer by visiting supportifcj.org. That's supportifcj.org.
AM 560, The Answer.
I want to offer congratulations to our friend Joe Abraham, Angel Dad Joe Abraham, father of Katie Abraham. He's taking a new job. He's not just going to beat his head against bags of cement in Illinois. He's taking a job with ICE. He is going to be the executive director at VOICE. VOICE stands for Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement. It's an office inside the agency that supports victims of crimes committed by illegal aliens. Perfect job for him to bring his passion and moral clarity on the issue to that position and help families nationally and help spotlight the preventable crimes that have been imposed upon American families and, frankly, some migrant families, too. So congratulations to Joe Abraham. It's great to see him in that role. I'm sure we'll be talking to him more as he gets his legs underneath him in the new role he has in D.C. Coming up at 7:37, we'll talk about the $40 trillion in debt, money and markets with Scott the Cow Guy Shellady. 7:37. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
7:32. We have 64 degrees and a chance of a heavy afternoon thunderstorm. It can't be ruled out. As we wrap up week one of back to school in Illinois, be careful out there. Lots of accidents. We'll have more in traffic coming up in just a moment. 8 are dead after a small plane crashed in southwest Alaska. Fox's Ted Lindner has more on the military Tide crash.
The civilian contracted plane carrying 2 pilots and 6 passengers had taken off from Anchorage and went down near Cape Newenham Long-Range Radar Site Airport, about 450 miles west of Anchorage. The site is part of a network of remote radar stations monitoring aircraft in and around Alaska's airspace. Military personnel who responded to the scene are calling the crash a devastating loss and said their priority is supporting the victims' families, friends, and teammates. The NTSB is investigating. Ted Lindner, Fox News.
Bernie Sanders this morning endorsing Democrat Socialist Angie Nixon in her race for U.S. Senate. The independent from Vermont saying Thursday Nixon is the future of the Democrat Party. She faces Republican Senator Ashley Moody in November. State of emergency has been declared in the capital of Delaware after the city was hit by a large tornado. The FBI investigating after a female ISIS supporter was nabbed planning to attack New York's Capitol building in Albany. FBI Special Agent Craig Tremaroli.
She said, quote, "I want to destroy as much of the building as possible and kill the senators while they are meeting. I want them to lose a lot of important documents as well."
She discussed her plans with FBI informants and spent weeks surveilling that state capital. Flooding in central Ohio causing a town to evacuate. The town of Buckeye Lake east of Columbus is under mandatory evacuation orders this morning. And a major interstate, I-70, is shut down in both directions due to flooding. And there are those headed back to school, colleges east, that will be impacted by that shutdown. 4 Chicago firefighters are recovering after battling a building blaze on Chicago's southwest side yesterday.
The challenge was the amount of fire, the heavy amount of fire, and just the weather. You know, it's still summertime, even though it's a little bit cooler than it was a couple weeks ago. We're still talking 80 degrees. So, and the extensive overhaul.
Deputy Chief Chris Serb, the blaze under investigation, the cause as well under investigation. After 9 days without electricity, NIPSCO now has a new timeline for power restoration efforts for those in northwest Indiana. That after an update and a gathering in Munster Thursday evening where residents demanded answers on progress.
There's dangerous conditions all around the blocks and streets in North Munster. There's no communication about plans to remove that debris. I can't send my kids outside.
NIPSCO estimates it will not be able to fully restore power to the area until around Tuesday. More than 45,000 remain in the dark. Meantime, the town council in Munster has approved a private contract for $1.2 million with a debris hauler to speed up the cleanup. Chicago sports. Cubs begin a 6-game road trip tonight in Seattle. White Sox blanked by the Braves in a makeup game at the rate 2-0. They host the Mets. Starting tonight, tomorrow the Bears visit Cincinnati in the preseason. The news is a service of the AM 560 store, T-shirts, hoodies, and more when you go to 560theanswer.com/store. Check of traffic and weather coming up next on AM 560.
Hugh Hewitt isn't sure we should believe the polls.
Wisconsin, where Francesca Hong blew what the pollsters said was a 20-plus point lead a week ago and lost to David Crowley. How did the polls get it that wrong? It's broken. Polling is absolutely broken. The question is going to be, why are we going to use it anymore? Why is anyone reporting on what polling is?
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Alex Marlowe at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
You've worked hard for everything you have. Your home, your investments, your real estate. When you're gone, someone has to manage it. Choosing the right trustee or executor is one of the most important decisions you'll make.
We kept putting it off. We figured our oldest would handle everything.
Then we thought, what if something happens to him?
Or what if the kids can't agree? We've seen money tear families apart.
We called Home State Bank, and I wish we'd done it sooner.
Home State Bank serves as trustee or executor for families across Northern Illinois, stepping in as the professional, impartial manager of your estate so your family doesn't have to carry that burden. They don't take sides, and they'll carry out your wishes exactly as you intended. Take the first step today by calling 815-459-2000 to meet with a trust officer face-to-face. Again, that's 815-459-2000. Home State Bank. Hometown professionals working together to build a stronger community since 1915.
We've been here 30 years, 30 Christmases in this house, and we have the traditions that most families have.
That's Terry talking about her experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We did Rhino Shield 14 years ago, and the house still looks the same as the first day. Rhino Shield really worked with me to help me get just the right nice soft yellow, and it's 14 years later, and it's the same color.
The main reason Terry called Rhino Shield is because Rhino Shield is backed by a 25-year warranty.
It just sounded wonderful that we could have the house coated with Rhino Shield and not have to worry about it again for 25 years.
Take it from Terry. Give Rhino Shield a call at 847-850-1132. Call now and receive 10% off the regular price. Or go to ChicagoRhinoShield.com.
There have been neighbors that have come by and said, "Did you just have your house painted?" Because they wanted to know who the contractor was. And I said, "No, it's actually Rhino Shield."
For your 10% off, call now. 847-850-1132. Or go to ChicagoRhinoShield.com.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
7:38, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Blindster.com. And this back-to-school week has been fairly calm, but there are accidents. West Chicago, Waukegan, Deer Park at Rand and Deer Park Boulevard. And delays on the Eisenhower inbound at Central Park Boulevard. Report of an accident there this morning. Cleanup of an accident on the Reagan eastbound right at I-355. You're backed up to Winfield Road. Traffic again, a service of Blindster.com, and Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, a check of our morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Clouds and sun this morning could bring on a heavy thunderstorm by late in the day, with a high near 80.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is sponsored by Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman. Listen Saturday mornings at 8. Learn more at willsave.com.
Now, from The Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios. Sean Fest returns on August 28th at the Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. Registration is free. Go to 560theanswer.com/SHAUN Fest.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yeah, every $10 trillion of debt or so, we like to take stock of the debt we're accumulating and the associated spending resulting in said debt. And so that's been this week. But don't worry, Scott Bessent has a plan. Is this all up to Scott Bessent? That seemed to be what Vice President Vance had to say on Newsmax. I mean...
So there are a couple of things the president has talked about to try to address this problem. First of all, he's talked about a sovereign wealth fund because, as you know,
one bad idea.
Actually, the stock market, the equity market has performed a lot better than the bond market. There's a weird way where American taxpayers are getting fleeced because of the very high debt charges. By the way, very high debt charges that started under the Biden administration. This is a crisis that we inherited, and I think has gotten better. I'm not saying that everything is fixed, but it has certainly gotten better. Sure. The other thing is that Scott Bessent, the amazing Treasury Secretary, he has had a very discreet plan, of course, supported by the President of the United States, to get the United States to a point where our economy is growing faster than our debt. Mm-hmm. And if you look, we are on track. So even though the debt is too high, even though we inherited this debt bomb from the Biden administration, we actually do have a plan to get the economy growing faster than the debt. And that's the most important thing. The issue that we've had under the Biden administration and what we're still kind of dealing with is that the debt was growing faster than American GDP. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. That's something that we're certainly fixing every single day in the Trump administration. But you know, even though the media doesn't cover this, I'm glad you're asking this question because Scott Bessent is very much on top of it. He knows it's a problem, and he's got the president's empowerment to do something about it.
This is a one-man job then, Mr. Vice President? I mean, what is that? Our plan is that Scott Bessent has a plan. And of course, you know, the Newsmax, you know, talking points reader just accepts that without any sort of probing. It's absurd. That is a ridiculous statement. That should not be accepted at face value. Scott Bessent was asked about it as well, since he's the guy with the plan they're all waiting for. We're waiting, Scott Bessent. Go fix the $40 trillion debt problem.
To our allies, our trading partners, is that global growth is the way to take care of this mountain of debt. As the U.S. growth has picked up, over time we will be well above the CBO trend average. Then we are encouraging the rest of the world to do this too. I'm pulling for Europe, but they need to follow the Draghi report. They're mired in regulation and kind of intra-European. It's almost the equivalent of this burden that they put on themselves. And we think the rest of the world should kind of unshackle themselves, both on the energy side, on the regulatory side.
Yeah, that's all well and good, but can we get to the crux of the matter? Our states, our government spending? Can we get to that? Which also basically, by the way, crowds out private investment, as Scott Bessent certainly knows. Scott Bessent has a plan. What is that? Here's an answer you could try on for size. if you wanted to talk to adults like adults, Brian Westbury. Brian Westbury posting on X about this week. Chief economist at First Trust. The only thing that will fix the debt accumulation is to stop spending. If governments actually raise taxes to levels needed to fund their current drunken largesse, they'll kill all growth and make problems worse. The other problem with all this spending is that we're borrowing from savers and giving it to consumers. We're eating our seed corn. In addition to all this, we're not hearing about the losses in pension funds, insurance companies, banks, and central banks in Europe or Japan or the U.S. They're huge. Pension funds bought debt at negative interest rates and now face huge losses. To repeat, the only way to fix this is to stop spending or somehow miraculously to lift growth rates. But governments are larger as a share of GDP, and this has reduced growth rates. Keynesianism works in the reverse way people are taught in school. It crushes growth in long term, even though it feels good in the short term. The U.S.'s $40 trillion in debt is a long-term problem. Issuing 3-month T-bills doesn't make it a short-term problem. Buying back long-term bonds doesn't make it a short-term problem. Governments have to start facing reality and stop pursuing short-term feel-good nonsense solutions. Again, cut the size of government. But apparently nobody wants to hear that or much less dare say it inside the Beltway. And that's the fact. The left, of course, is, the Trump tax cuts are responsible. Absurd. Gross national debt has increased by $17 trillion since 2019, the last 7 years. That's as much debt as the U.S. added during the entire first 225 years of its history. By the way, revenue since the BBB increased by 68% since the 2017 tax cuts into the BBB, increased 68% since 2018, which is twice the rate of inflation. Revenue has averaged about 17% of GDP, which is roughly the historical norm. This is the Wall Street Journal reporting. Yet spending has averaged slightly over 24% of GDP versus a pre-pandemic historical average of 20%. So that's where it's at. But nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wanted to treat Doge with the sobriety with which it should have been treated and the long-term commitment that is required. And so we get Scott Bessent has a plan. And then Scott Bessent talks about the economic policies and regulatory policies, tax and spend policies across the pond that have led Europe to stagnate. Okay, agree. And back on the home front, what are we doing? For more on the what are we doing or what should we be doing, pleased to be joined by Scott Shellady. Scott the Cow Guy, Shellady. There it is. Can't forget that. Market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1 p.m. And the Cow Guy Close, the host of the Cow Guy Close, 1 to 1:30, both at RFD TV. And this segment brought to you by Home State Bank. A conversation with Scott is, consider Home State Bank as an impartial trustee to your estate and spare your family from conflict and disagreements. Talk to a Home State Bank trust officer today at 815-459-2000. Again, that's Home State Bank at 815-459-2000. Scott the Cow Guy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Scott Bessent has a plan. Good enough for you?
It's a flippant thing to say. I totally agree. But in my lifetime, there's never been a better person to try to tackle the problem. So, one side, it's a ridiculous thing to say, but at the same time, a lot of folks won't know these names that I throw out there. But Scott Bessent came out of the George Soros Quantum Fund in the 90s, which was the most successful fund the world had ever seen. He was a youngster there cutting his teeth with a guy by the name of Stanley Druckenmiller, which is like saying, Joe Namath and Johnny Unitas. And then there was a third guy named Jim Rogers, who's an absolute genius when it comes to commodities. The four of those guys were amazing, and they're probably the smartest guys in the room. They did very well, and they've never failed. Now, I credit Scott Bessent with bringing us back from the brink when we had the Trump tariffs, when he flew down to Mar-a-Lago to tell the president to take a little bit of a pause here. We're going a little bit too far. He can see the markets, and he sees when credit spreads start to break, or he knows. He's an actual practitioner, but they're bad at making the message. The GOP's been horrible messaging all the time anyway.
I'm sorry, just sorry to interrupt, but this is not a criticism of Scott Bessent. It's to say, look, Scott Bessent can't stop Congress from spending.
No. Okay, so you're right. And so I've been talking about this on my show for 2.5 years. And you're right. Congress can't stop spending. And I have no faith that they will, unless there's some laws that are put in place. That's the only issue, because they're going to continue to spend. And the way out of this is, okay, I got the way out of this is obviously spend less, see what we can do when it comes to waste, fraud, and abuse, and then get these budgets back down to where they were before COVID. But they're not going to spend less. That's the problem. So we can't grow ourselves out of this if they don't stop spending. That whole growth and grow our way out of it just falls flat on its face if we don't get these idiots in Congress to stop it. That's the biggest problem. So number two is this. We are not going to go bankrupt. We've had an enormous amount of spending increases percentage-wise, but the net worth of the average American has outpaced that. So we're still the wealthiest country in the world. There is good news on the other side of this. However, that's not going to go very far when we talk about this money and how much we're having to spend on interest every year. But I also know this. This is a topic of conversation that's only here because we're $40 trillion in debt. We weren't talking about this at $38.5 trillion or even $39 trillion. So there is a little bit of this, oh, my God, all of a sudden my hair's on fire. I mark my words, in a week and a half, we won't be talking about it.
Oh,
we'll be back to the status quo.
I totally agree. Completely agree.
And so
we don't need to talk about it because Scott Bessent's got a plan and he's executing it.
Well, you know what? He's got I don't know what his plan is. It's not a hard plan. You're right. Whoever wrote that article. The only plan is this: stop spending. Stop spending, but they won't do it. So what are you going to do about this debt when you can't get Congress to stop spending? That's what you have to be asking.
Well, I mean, so on the monetary side, it would seem to me, I know this is being reported as sort of, bond chaos this week and so forth, but it seems to me that Kevin Warsh is moving in a direction opposite quantitative easing, which was essentially facilitating the profligate spending of Congress. It seems to me that he is trying to bring more sanity back to monetary policy and provide, less collaboration with the big spenders in Congress.
100%. He's trying to get back to the Greenspan era. He's trying to normalize, which is what I call it. He's trying to get the Fed out of the back pocket of the country and the consumer. But, so yes, you're right. But he's also talking about, there's thoughts that he was going to go to Jackson Hole at the end of this month and reduce the balance sheet, which is that's a synthetic rate hike. But at the same time, we got Bessent buying bonds out the long end, which is a synthetic rate cut out there. So we're taking blood out of our right arm right now and putting it in our left, and we're trying to tell people we're okay. But again, this is all because we've hit $40 trillion. This will be on the back pages in about a week and a half. But we do still have to stop spending. And the problem is that these numbers are so big, Dan. When you talk about $1 trillion, Congress can't get their heads around it, and I think they think the problem is like a little kid, right? The problem's too big, so I'll ignore it. That's exactly where we're at with them. It's too big, so let's ignore it.
Well, you get a sense of what they would do. The biggest of the big spenders, what they would do if they are successful in the midterms at controlling the House and or Senate. Ro Khanna's wealth tax, 5% tax. In California, California policy is Illinois policy, a microcosm of what they would scale nationally if they could. The 5% wealth tax. This is such nonsense. He doesn't even understand what he's talking about. He had to have it explained to him by Bill Ackman and Mark Cuban.
Yeah, and you know how ridiculous it is. He's putting forward the fact that, say, these billionaires are not cash rich. The government will loan them money,
right,
and they'll pledge their own stock against it. That is the biggest, dumbest idea I've ever heard in my entire life, besides defund the police and no borders. This is crazy. So we're going to have the Mason-Dixon line come into play again. All those idiot blue states to the north are going to bankrupt themselves with these ideas that they can get out of it with this wealth tax, which is stealing. It's not earned income. It's not a capital gain. It's stealing people's wealth. And they say they're only going to do it once. Well, a lie. They're going to do it more than once, and they're going to do it to more people than just billionaires. It'll go to millionaires, and then it'll go to $500,000 guys and $100,000, and it gets to mom and pop. It's the biggest line. It's absolutely ridiculous. But this is what's going to happen. it's gonna get some traction because people are worried about the debt. But here's the deal: why can't somebody say, "Hey, you can't manage the tax money that we give you now. What's to say you're going to manage this better?" It's insane.
Well, the good news, I mean, as long as you keep it at the failed state level, the good news is that, that it will be good news for states like Texas and Florida, where these Silicon Valley founders will flee.
Absolutely right. And that's why I say no. If you draw a line from Texas over to South Carolina, there's roughly 11 states in the Southeast, right? Those 11 states on an annual basis have a GDP of $9 trillion. And if you put that against the world's GDPs, it comes in number 3 behind China and the U.S. 75% of the growth in this country in the last 5 years has been in those 11 states. I mean, there's going to be a break in this country because we've got people flourishing in the Southeast and states just languishing, New Jersey, New York, Illinois, California, above that line. That's why I say we could have a civil war, not a civil war, but an economic one.
So what's your short to medium term outlook for the markets, given everything we've discussed between the debt burden and this sort of push and pull economic and monetary policy that's being bandied about by the Trump administration, amid the AI revolution? How does this all flesh out short term, do you think?
I still think artificial intelligence is going to decimate jobs, but it's going to be fantastic for the economy, at least in the first couple of years. Now, there's going to be some gains that that hurt. Like when we start putting people out of work, the productivity gain is going to go to the bottom line of the company. But what's it going to do to the bottom line of the country when people can't afford the things you're making, right? So that'll be the second wave of it. But I'm still very bullish on what AI is going to be doing. We're only on the cusp of it, and it's also going to be deflationary, which could then help the government maybe lower lower interest rates sometime next year. So I'm bullish. I mean, we're going to have to get through this August garbage and September garbage when everybody's still, they're putting their chests out about the $40 trillion, but they didn't care about it 2 months ago. Right. And also there is a little bit of a thought going around Wall Street right now, which I do give a little bit of credit to, is that they're trying to test Kevin Warsh. Okay, bucko, how tough are you? Let's see what you can do. Call Scott Bessent and see what your plan is. I feel like there's a little bit of that with the bond vigilantes, too. And so we got some people pushing the issue. We've got folks running around worried about the $40 trillion. Once that gets to be old news, and we start to see these numbers, the growth in the earnings is just insane. Profitability is insane. 4.1% employment rate. This all looks very, very good, at least in the next 3 to 6 months.
And just quickly as an aside, should Mark Walter of Guggenheim fame, soon perhaps becoming infamy, should he go to jail?
My initial response is yes, but what do you think?
Yes, I do.
All right,
from what I've read in the Wall Street Journal and what I know from people in that industry, including former vets of Guggenheim, he seems to me he should go up like Ken Lay or Bernie Ebbers.
Well, you know what though, the problem is that we just never seem to have those. I mean, maybe Bernie Ebbers and Ken Lay were two outliers, but a lot of times. I mean, hey, we can't put Fauci in jail. What's our problem?
Well, Mark Walter doesn't have a Biden pardon in his back pocket. Scott the Cow Guy, market specialist for Market Day Report, 10:30 to 1. Host of the Cow Guy Close, 1 to 1:30, both at RFD TV. Thanks so much, Scott. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Have a great weekend.
You too. And our conversation with Scott brought to you by Home State Bank. Again, consider Home State Bank as an impartial trustee to your estate and spare your family from conflict and disagreements. Talk to a Home State Bank trust officer today at 815-459-2000. Again, Home State Bank at 815-459-2000. And Scott joined us on the elfwealthgroup.com answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team. Build it sooner. ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ziprecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ziprecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ziprecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up next hour, of course, it's Friday. It's Open Mic Friday at the bottom of the hour, but at the top, she is always a tour de force. Catherine Burblesing, Britain's strictest headmistress. We'll talk more about that R-Day fraud, academic fraud matter, and other matters of intellectual importance. Catherine Burblesing, 8 o'clock, 8:08, I should say. It's 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
It's time to end the war. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what Iran's president just said in a speech today, claiming they won and America is hated in the world. President Trump insists Iran's been decimated as he works to prevent them from having a nuclear weapon, telling his ex-lawyer Michael Cohen's WABC radio show.
The Navy's gone. The Air Force is gone. The leadership is gone. Part of the problem is so many of the leaders are gone. It's not easy to make a deal. Nobody knows who's leading.
Now, as far as the president announcing the economic D-Day plan, it's going to hit Iran even harder.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is due to announce a range of new measures on Monday, but at the center of it, of course, is the Strait of Hormuz and the U.S. naval blockade, which is preventing Iranian ships going into or exiting that critical waterway.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt in Tel Aviv. Investigators in Alaska trying to figure out why a small plane crashed near a military base airport, killing all 8 people on board. It was chartered by the Army Corps of Engineers, 2 of its employees among those dead. A New York woman who radicalized online is now in jail. Jessica Bowie charged with plotting an ISIS-inspired terror attack targeting the state capitol in Albany.
She said, quote, "I want to destroy as much of the building as possible and kill the senators while they are meeting."
FBI Special Agent Craig Tremoroli. At Lindsay Clancy's triple murder trial in Massachusetts, testimony about to resume. Her lawyers, using an insanity defense, will call their final witness.
Psychiatrist Dr. Philip Resnick, who has studied why parents kill their children. He was a key defense witness in the Andrea Yates case. That was the Texas mother who was found not guilty by reason of insanity in 2006 for drowning her 5 kids. The jury must decide if Lindsay Clancy had the capacity to appreciate that her actions were wrong or the ability to stop herself from killing her 3 kids.
That's Fox's Brian Yanis outside the court in Plymouth. America's listening to Fox.
64 degrees, clouds and sun at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. A man found dead inside of a Southside home early this morning. Chicago police say officers discovered the 27-year-old in the Stony Island Park neighborhood in the 8500 block of South Constance at around 1 a.m. Democrats deciding between Boston, Denver, and Philadelphia for the 2028 DNC. Atlanta and Chicago yesterday trimmed off the final list of potential sites. The NHL is expanding its reach into Germany. The league announcing yesterday plans to stage 4 games in the country during the 27-28 season. The Global Series in Germany launches in December of that season, with the Blackhawks and the Senators squaring off in 2 games in a set in Dusseldorf. It will be the first NHL-played games in that country since 2011. Cubs begin a 6-game road trip tonight in Seattle against the Mariners. White Sox blanked by the Braves 2-0 in a makeup game at the rate. Sox host the Mets starting tonight. Week 2 of the NFL preseason is here. Bears visiting Cincinnati tomorrow. 5 players are on top of the leaderboard as round 2 of the BMW gets underway in St. Louis. The news service of the AM 560 Advantage, where membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets. Join today, 560theanswer.com/join. Time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature, a division of Esquire Bank.
I'm Taylor Riggs, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Shoppers are heading to BJ's Wholesale to cut costs, especially to fill up their gas tanks. The retailer is reporting a jump in sales in the recent quarter, up nearly 12%. BJ's Wholesale has gas stations. Excluding the impact of gas sales, the increase topped 3%. Tens of thousands of Hyundai workers went on strike today at factories in South Korea. It's the first walkout in a decade and halted production. The one-day strike follows months of failed wage negotiations. The union seeking to raise the retirement age to 65 or older from 60. The workers are also seeking job protections against artificial intelligence and automation. Interest rates on U.S. Treasuries remain elevated this morning, but stock futures are higher. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Larry Elder sees the economy turning up.
S&P closes at new record high, buoyed by cooler than expected inflation data and falling oil prices. But Donald Trump has taken a mallet to the economy. Things are unaffordable because of Donald Trump. How many times do we have to talk about the fact that oil prices are lower than they were under Biden? How many times do we have to...
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer, WIND, Chicago. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, American Custom Flooring in Niles is hosting a one-day customer appreciation event. Enjoy free food and drinks from 9 to 3 on Saturday, August 22nd. Save big on all countertops, browse beautiful slabs on display, or peruse through hundreds of remnant pieces for smaller projects. If you've shopped for countertops before, you know the hassle. The person who sells the countertops isn't the one measuring, fabricating, or installing. At A American Custom Flooring, your countertop orders are handled under one roof, and you'll work with the same person from start to finish. With a 20,000 square foot showroom and a 30,000 square foot warehouse, choose the perfect stone for your home. Plus, you won't pay for wasted material. Don't miss their one-day event, Saturday, August 22nd, or step into the showroom today, located just north of Howard and Caldwell in Niles. Learn more at AAmericanFlooring.com. A American Custom Flooring, your one-stop shop for flooring, cabinets, and countertops.
You've worked hard for everything you have, your home, your investments, your real estate. When you're gone, someone has to manage it. Choosing the right trustee or executor is one of the most important decisions you'll make.
We kept putting it off. We figured our oldest would handle everything.
Then we thought, what if something happens to him?
Or what if the kids can't agree? We've seen money tear families apart.
We called Home State Bank, and I wish we'd done it sooner.
Home State Bank serves as trustee or executor for families across Northern Illinois, stepping in as the professional, impartial manager of your estate so your family doesn't have to carry that burden. They don't take sides, and they'll carry out your wishes exactly as you intended. Take the first step today by calling 815-459-2000 to meet with a trust officer face-to-face. Again, that's 815-459-2000. Home State Bank. Hometown professionals working together to build a stronger community since 1915.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Here's the deal. The government is over $38 trillion in debt, which means the IRS isn't slowing down. And the tax code is complex and unforgiving. So it's not surprising if you're one of the millions of Americans that owe back taxes to the IRS. Unfortunately, they're the world's most powerful collection agency, with the ability to garnish your wages, seize your bank accounts, and even take your home or business. But don't be stressed or worried any longer. We're Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. We have resolved over $3 billion in tax debt for our clients. Our award-winning professionals deal with the IRS every single day, protecting our clients and preparing them for the best possible resolution. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, give Optima a call today.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
8:09. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Stop and go on Lakeshore Drive. You travel northbound between Roosevelt and Monroe, and you're on the brakes up near Hollywood this morning. Accident West Chicago, Washington, and Easton Avenue. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now a check of our morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sun with a powerful thunderstorm arriving later in the afternoon. This storm could lead to heavy rain, hail, and strong winds. The temperature will reach a high of 80. Tonight, brace for another intense thunderstorm early on, followed by clearing skies with some clouds and muggy conditions. The low will be around 66. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560. The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from The Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Earlier this summer at the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship Conference in London, the woman known as Britain's strictest headmistress gave a talk about the decline of the West, what's happened and what to do about it. Here's in part what she said, what happened, and then we'll get to what she's actually doing about it.
The culture shift comes from what children learn at school and online. Ask any young person what history they learned at school, and they'll tell you Hitler. Ask them what else? Slavery. Ask them what else? American civil rights. In fact, what little they know of history will be all about black and brown people fighting for equality against the white man. Women fighting men for the vote. Gay and trans people fighting for various rights. Our young people have been taught that history is simply one long story about various groups struggling under the oppressive dead white man. Out with Dickens, Shakespeare, Kipling, and Wordsworth. We must decolonize. History is taught through an oppressor lens. The triangular slave trade, white men held the power. What about Britain ending the slave trade? More than a quick mention, if at all? No. What of the Arab slave trade that lasted 3 times as long as the triangular slave trade? No. Okay, so GCSE history in Britain is often taught as migration through time. So the idea that Britain has always been a land of immigrants is embedded in our children's heads. Most schools would prefer to concentrate learning about the tiny number of black people who existed in Tudor England over a thorough analysis of England's break from Rome. Medieval history becomes her story and is told through the eyes of Eleanor of Aquitaine, because after all, she was a woman. Not to mention weeks on King Mansa Musa of Mali, because he was a black Muslim. His bearing on British institutions, laws, and faith is non-existent. And the fact that he is said to have been the richest man in history, thanks in part to his massive slave-owning society, is a detail somehow that teachers rarely ever teach. But it isn't just our schools. It's our general culture, too. Take your kids to a museum or an art gallery in any Western country, and you'll find the same narrative. As an example, when learning about aviation in London's Science Museum and the extraordinary feat that is man making massive machines move in the sky, a write-up on the wall explains that women and black people were historically barred from aviation schools and the military. Similarly, James Watt, the man who invented the steam engine and is considered the founder of the Industrial Revolution, has a write-up on the wall explaining that his early career involved slave trafficking with a bonus analysis of the whole of Britain's complicity in the slave trade. They flatten the entire human story and all of its complexities into the narrative of oppressor and oppressed, leaving young people unable to see the world in any other terms.
So what to do about it? Well, one of the things we should apparently do about it is found more schools like the McKella Community School in Wembley that Catherine Berbelsing co-founded, because recent write-up has a dozen years in, kids at the Wembley School running circles around kids, British kids nationally in terms of test scores. So there's something. For more on this topic and a couple of others, Catherine Burblesing, Britain's strictest headmistress, co-founder of the McKella Community School in Wembley, host of the Strictly Education podcast. Strictly Education is her podcast. Catherine Burblesing, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hello. Yes. Thanks for having me.
Well, congratulations on the success of your school. And our friend Theodore Dalrymple had a nice write-up on it last month. I just like people to hear, the approach that you're taking to produce the results that you're producing in a school that where it's not, like what we understand a community school to be, like a school choice, like you're selecting students. You're taking what is provided to you by the policies, the local policies. And a population, a student population that, according to Dalrymple's write-up, is 60% Muslim.
Yeah. So it's a school, a very typical inner city school with black and brown kids from the inner city who, if you've been to visit an inner city school, it often can be quite chaotic, bad behavior, very little learning going on. That isn't the case at our school. And in fact, we get 1,000 visitors from across the world every year. Lots of American teachers who come, and your listeners are welcome. They just need to look up McKella, which is Michael with an A at the end, and go on the website, sign up for a visit. If they're going to London, you will be able to have a tour with the kids and lunch with the kids. And what people by is polite and kind they are, and how they really what's embedded in them are small c conservative values. So the things that make us different as a school, that we have traditional discipline, traditional teaching, and traditional values. And the values are very much I call them small c conservative, the idea that you're responsible for yourself, you have agency, and you can decide what to do with your life and what you do every day. The idea that we're all flawed human beings and therefore we're trying to be better versions of ourselves tomorrow than we were today. We teach them kindness. We teach them gratitude. We don't want them to be entitled. We don't want them to identify as victims where they're blaming every ism, racism, sexism, transphobia, etc. for their problems. That is not what's going on. It's because you just didn't do your homework and you need to do it tomorrow night so you don't get into trouble. That ultimately, that's sort of very basic kind of common sense that 50 years ago nobody would have questioned. And those small c conservative values that used to be across the political spectrum, whether you were on the left, everybody had these values. Nowadays, weirdly, some people on the left with the whole woke kind of they've those old small c conservative values. And it's what I was talking about in that speech of mine at ARC at the conference, where I was saying this woke agenda, frankly, has infiltrated our schools, and it's why our young adults then, we constantly surprised sometimes by some of the things they think, and it's because we taught them to think that way when they were younger at school.
You also, too, I mean, just the particular scene where we talk about the use of possession of cell phones in schools and things like that now as a way to focus kids' attention. Pupils may not speak in the corridors as they move in single file from one class to another, even during free time. They're not allowed to gather in groups larger than 4 to prevent the emergence of bullies or gang leaders. They greet teachers individually and politely, addressing them as Miss or Sir. And the early grades sit with hands folded on their desks when not writing or otherwise engaged.
Yeah. So sometimes people will think, gosh, that seems a bit extreme. Well, all I would say is please feel free to spend a day at an inner city school and see what the behavior is like, right? Because we have a typical inner city intake, and we have not chosen those kids. The local council has given us those kids. We are not selective in any way whatsoever. And the reason why we attract others is because our strict policies, which aren't mean, it's strict doesn't mean, it just means holding your standards high enough to, because you love them. That's what it means. And it means that you don't look at a child and think, oh, you didn't do your homework, poor you. It must be because you're black. It must be because you're poor. It must be because you health issues or your dad's not around. And we just expect everybody to bring their homework in. If you don't get your homework in, you get a detention. Simple as that. And it does mean that when you get your homework done, you get a gold star and hooray. Praisman has always been, for centuries, has worked with children. But you have to start with the understanding that the child needs to be taught right from wrong. If, on the other hand, you don't believe in that, you think children will figure it out on their own because what's wrong with the world, political machinations that are going on. So it's race that's going to stop the child from succeeding, as opposed to actually maybe his own laziness will stop him from succeeding. Maybe his sense of indulging in victimhood and feeling very entitled instead of taking personal responsibility will be his undoing in the end. You have to think in that small way for children to succeed. This is where in the speech I was making a connection with just the general West. If we're worried about the West losing its moral core, losing its its ability to sort of stand up for itself, that is coming from our schools, and we underestimate how much children are 100% of the future. How we can mold children into any number of different things, and at the moment we're molding them into young adults who see themselves as victims and who do not know what it is to use their own agency, take personal responsibility. And it's something that we should worry about. And this is something on my podcast, Strictly Education, I talk about. My podcast literally has just launched yesterday. It's on YouTube, so your listeners can go on YouTube and subscribe and listen to the first podcast that's out yesterday. And then every week on a Thursday, a new podcast will come out where I'm talking about the importance of children when it comes to, one, Western civilization, but two, just your family. Most people have kids, and I think a lot of us, when we're wanting to raise our children, the gentle parenting idea of narrating everything to children and just explaining it to them instead of using praise and punishment, I think is part of the reason why we see some of our young Gen Z, 25-year-olds sort of at work, being a bit snowflakey, not taking responsibility. It's because we've brought them up in this gentle way, as opposed to actually just teaching them right from wrong and using praise in an old-fashioned way.
Something that bedevils the Chicagoland government school system is the obsession with race, identity politics. Unsurprising. It's mainly, I think it's because the adults obsess about it. Theodore Dalrymple, in his write-up at City Journal about your school, was struck by the fact that despite the diversity of your school, as you were just describing, there was an absence of racial tension. What do you attribute that to?
Yes. Well, the thing is that if everybody is concentrating on having the same values, the same small c conservative values, then it doesn't matter if us wear a hijab or some of us wear a Sikh bangle or some of us eat pork, some of us don't eat pork, and some of us don't eat beef. It doesn't matter because we all have something in common, which are those sets of values. So America is a great melting pot of all these different cultures, but at the end of the day, we all need to belong under that one flag. So the British flag or the American flag, you need the Pledge of Allegiance in your schools. There needs to be a sense of I am an American first, and that I'm part of something bigger than myself, which is my country. And then, of course, I have my own religion. I have my own mindset. Some of us, want to be more, lean towards, more being a Democrat. Others are more Republican. Some like sport, some like, the mosque, some go to the temple, some go to the church, some don't believe in God at all. It's fine. I mean, that's what America is. It's this great nation full of all these different characters, but they need to exist under one flag. And the flag needs to be the American flag. And when people are then, when they are prioritizing other flags over the American flag, that's when you get trouble in a country. There needs to be a dedication and manning of a love for the country. That doesn't mean you're not going to be critical of it, right? In fact, one is often most critical of the things one loves most, So this isn't about just thinking America's great, but it's about recognizing that America we owe something to our country. You know, each one of us, we owe our country because it's where we belong. It's like, you know, you talk about family. You know, you love your family. You're really critical of your brother, and sometimes you really don't like your brother, but you love your brother underneath it all, and you share something with him. And a nation state needs to share values across all those religious and racial divides, because otherwise you end up in a situation where everyone just hates each other and everyone bunkers down into their own tribal group and then fights with the other group simply because they're part of the other group. As to us all kind of coming together and holding hands. And I mean, I know that sounds all very kumbaya, but the fact that is what makes a country. And we are group animals, and we need to feel like we belong to something. And too often, young inner city boys, for instance, they end up in gangs because they don't have much of a family at home. And they need to feel like they belong. And if they don't belong to the country and they don't belong to their school and they don't belong to their family, then they will find a gang to belong to. So it is incumbent on all of us to children a sense of belonging. At Michaela, there is one flag that flies, and that is the British flag. There's no pride flag. There's no trans flag. There's no Palestinian flag. There's none of these other flags. There is simply the British flag, and we sing "God Save the King," and people find it very odd for us to be singing "God Save the King." And just as I imagine it's probably quite odd these days for the Pledge of Allegiance to be recited at American schools, but once upon a time this was just normal, and it gives a sense of belonging to something, a real sense of team, where we can look across those racial and religious divides and they don't mean anything.
And the success of the Michaela Community School, has it converted some of the institutional critics that targeted you when the school opened?
Yeah, we had people protesting outside. People have done everything to try and stop us from succeeding. I mean, there still are people who hate us, but it is it's definitely the case that lots of people have changed their minds. As I say, 1,000 visitors come every year. Strictly Education, my podcast, I'm hoping will really help people to change the minds of teachers. It was an American teacher who came to visit, actually, and she burst into tears and she said, "I didn't know that this was possible. We get the best results in the whole country by far, and this is out of 4,000 secondary schools. People come and learn, take the ideas back to their classrooms." I've had so many letters from various teachers from around the world who say that their classrooms have changed for the better thanks to them copying the methods that we use. And I would just say it's just for teachers, you see. For parents as well, parents are regularly asking me, well, what would a traditional advice look like? Because our grandmothers all knew the kind of advice to give mums and dads that would work. But unfortunately, our grandmothers and our grandfathers are dying out, and you go to the local bookshop now, and all you'll see is advice coming from the gentle parenting side of things, when in fact we need some more old-fashioned parenting which uses praise and punishment.
Catherine Birbal saying Britain's strictest headmistress, co-founder of the Michaela Community School in Wembley, London, that we've been talking about. Her new podcast just launched, Strictly Education, which you can get on YouTube. Strictly Education is the podcast. Catherine Birbal saying thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And she joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Welcome back to Ask Hasslis. I'm Weston. What's your question?
Is this one of those viral pranks?
Beg your pardon?
I think you promote Hasslis Mattresses employee-free showrooms just to lure me in so you can film a practical joke on me to go viral.
Sir, I assure you, we take employee-free mattress shopping very seriously.
What do? Tie me to a bed and spray me with silly string?
We simply let you try our selection of Beautyrest, Sealy Posturepedic, and more without commission-crazy salespeople breathing down your neck.
Good one.
Others sell a Beauty Sleep by Beautyrest Queen Elm Cove A mattress for $1,599, but Hasslis has it for just $794.
Sure you do.
And through Monday, get a free adjustable base with the purchase of a select Sealy Posturepedic or Beautyrest mattress, plus free next-day delivery.
So shopping at Hasslis won't make me TikTok famous?
Absolutely not.
Darn.
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you or shop online at Hasslis.com.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
When George Washington accepted command of the Continental Army, Americans were fighting a king and determined not to replace one form of unchecked power with another. Washington understood the difference between authority and ownership. In 1775, he declared, "When we assumed the soldier, we did not lay aside the citizen." Even as commander of America's Army, Washington remembered that he remained one of the people and that the power entrusted to him was never his to keep. He did not fight to rule America. He fought so Americans could govern themselves. Washington's example gave the young nation something more than victory. It gave America a standard for leadership. Those who hold power must remain accountable to the people they serve, because in a free nation, leadership is not ownership. It is a duty and a trust.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
AM 560, The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call it now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan Proft. It is that time of the week. Open Mic Friday, where we take your calls. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. Call and text line. Take your calls with comments, compliments, concerns, criticisms, general crack pottery. We'll take it all. Again, 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. Call and text line. A couple of things I do want to get to. One is some new research out. Just thought I'd share. Because, speaking of Theodore Dalrymple, I was riffing off of this piece he wrote on Catherine Birbal-Singh's school in Wembley that we were just discussing. Theodore Dalrymple, who famously observed that to have a tattoo is basically to announce to the world that I can't defile myself fast enough. There's a tattoo gap in intelligence and mental health. People with no tattoos tend to be smarter and more mentally healthy than those with tattoos. This is charted out, but that's the upshot of this research. And I just thought people should know, particularly if you take sort of an indifferent attitude towards your kids getting tattoos. Please don't. Tony, Downers Grove, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Well, hey, Dan. That was a nice Pollyanna riff by Catherine, and it's great that her school's doing good, but I think she's conflating problems with inner city black children and, children that are being fed radical Islamic beliefs. So, the Middle Eastern culture, Islam, don't really share the values of Western culture. So I guess we could keep trying, but they're not going to stand under our flag.
Well, thanks for the call, Tony. I wouldn't call her views Pollyanna. She's a practitioner. She's been doing it for 12 years at her school. The school is 60% Muslim, as you heard me say. And it is secular. And you heard the approach. And frankly, it's the approach that schools, successful private schools, and formerly Catholic schools used to take here. I mean, Northridge Prep still does. There's a few that still do it. So this is not theoretical. It's not an op-ed. This is somebody actually doing it on a daily basis and producing the results. So, again, let's not make the mistake of painting with a broad brush. El Sayed and Dr. Zuhdi Jasser are both Muslims. Do you think that they belong in the same affinity groups? Do they have the same philosophy on the West? Obviously not. Roy and Glen Ellen.
Yes. Good morning, Dan. Welcome back. I hope this is the end of your vacation. My God, what's that? A good amount of time off.
Well, I mean, wow.
No, I appreciate it. ahead. I'm not dogging you.
I've got a couple of more excursions. I mean, I'll try to soften the blow, come before the weather turns here. So, but I'll do my best. Though.
I do question where you were on vacation. I thought I saw you in the bleachers with the LeGuy family fighting again.
I got to back my brothers.
Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Roy. Appreciate it. As I said yesterday, if people didn't catch it, I did this wonderful rafting trip through the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. That's where I was. I wasn't playing golf this time. And I highly encourage it if you haven't done it, especially if you've always wanted to do it. It was fantastic. I'll leave it there for now. Lou in Western PA.
Hey, Dan. Let's swap golf stories. I'll go first.
Okay.
From 1996 to 2006, our daughter Maria was a golf caddy at the prestigious Oakmont Country Club.
Oh, Oakmont.
During that time, she caddied well over 600 rounds. One of those rounds was on a day the club hosted a celebrity event for exceptional children. In her foursome was the pro Bob Ford, who she caddied for, two Pittsburgh Penguins, Mario Lemieux and Dan Quinn, and a guy from Chicago, Michael Jordan.
I've heard of him.
Well, as you might expect, there was some wagering. Dan, the Skins number started in the mid-four digits and went up.
Yeah,
that's some good wagering there.
Well, Jordan is infamous for his line, and if you ask him, what would he like to play for, his line is whatever makes you nervous. Because he can afford to play for big dollars, and he does, by all accounts. Mm-hmm. I can't. Wait. Did your daughter caddy for Jordan?
No. She had Bob Ford.
Oh, she had the pro.
But she was, or he was very nice. He spoke with all the caddies, and besides giving his caddy a generous tip, he gave each of them a generous tip.
Yeah, I actually caddied for Jordan growing up once, and this was, this was at the beginning of his NBA career, so this was before the Bulls had won any titles, and it was just a twosome, and he was totally cool. He was good. I mean, a really nice guy. Back then, I think he gave me a $50 tip, which back in 100 years ago was real money. And so I'm big fan, but it was a great experience. He's a good dude, pretty decent golfer.
Okay, Dan, thanks.
All right, thanks for the call, Lou. Appreciate it. Wait, I had another. Oh yeah, I wanted to make a recommendation. So Lou, hopefully you're still listening, and this for other people too. I got turned on to this from a friend of mine who also, friend of I caddied with his brother, but anyway, listens to the show. Gene Wojciechowski, who is at ESPN, was a sports reporter for ESPN. I don't know if he still is. And he's a Wheaton guy. Anyway, he wrote this new book called, it's a sort of I'd call it like a historical fiction. It's called All Carry. And if you're a caddy, or if you caddied, or if you're a golf fan, or just a sports fan, but I mean, particularly if you're a caddy, particularly if you're a golfer, his book called All Carry, it's like historical fiction, and I would say it's sort of a cross between Field of Dreams and The Natural. I think it could be optioned into a movie. But I'm no literary agent. I'm sure he has his own. But All Carry, Gene Wojciechowski, if I can make a fictional, historical fiction, book recommendation, particularly for the golfers and the caddies out there, that would be it, since we were on the topic. Okay. Jack in Northwest Indiana.
Good morning, Dan. So in light of everything that's going on with the Democratic Socialists and some of the challenges that we face, I actually came across a speech that Ronald Reagan gave during the 1976 Republican convention, of course, which he lost to Gerald Ford, but he gave this speech, not really a concession speech, but a speech that Ford asked him to give, and it was sort of ad hoc or randomly put together. I'd love to read a few lines of it, again, in light of what we're facing today. I thought to myself, if I write the problems, there'll be domestic problems of which the President, Ford, spoke here tonight. The challenges confronting us, the erosion of freedoms taking place under democratic rule in this country, the invasion of private rights, the controls and restrictions on the vitality of the great free economy that we enjoy. These are the challenges that we must meet. And then, again, there's a challenge of which he spoke, that we live in a world in which great powers, of course, he's talking about Russia, and the speech goes on. But the point is, all these domestic issues that were in place at that point in time, and his challenge, Reagan's challenge to those people, again, 1976, 100 years from that date, will those challenges, will they be met? Well, now we are 50 years removed from that. Now we've got another 50 years before it's 300 years of history here. And at that point, we'll know whether people arose to the challenges that we face today with these Democrat socialists. We won't be around, but others will. So it's time to act. It's time to put down this threat to our way of life. And I think Ronald Reagan mentioned somewhat similar 50 years ago. And here we are again, facing the same issues with the same party.
Thanks for the call, Jack. Yeah, and just since we were on the topic of K through 12 education with Catherine Burbelsing, it's nice to see some people rising to the challenge. This is all over the country, and it persists, even in the era of Trump. There's a fight right now at a middle school in North Carolina over the hiring of a trans music teacher. And public comment section, a father, Mr. Driver, showed up to address the school board.
Parents shouldn't have to pass an ideological test to participate in public education. Oh, here's what our detractors are telling us, by the way. You don't support school hiring a trans teacher? Maybe public school isn't for you or your family. Maybe homeschool. Maybe private school. That's right. Maybe pay taxes into the school system and then pay again to escape from it. Point is, parents, not administrators, not academics, not social justice activists, remain the primary moral authority in the lives of their children. And I'm not surrendering the formation of my children to people who think my family, our traditions, and moral convictions are something they're obligated to disrupt. God entrusted their upbringing to us, not over-educated administrators with late-stage luxury beliefs. And that's not hatred, that's fatherhood.
Pretty good. Late-stage luxury beliefs. I like that. Of course, in contrast, because these are fights, the local NAACP chapter head.
And I'm here tonight because when a member of our community is being targeted or publicly vilified, we have a responsibility to speak up. Tonight, I'm speaking in support of an educator, a young teacher who's in her first job out of college. She chose education. She chose to serve children. She chose to bring the arts, creativity, and learning to the classroom. And instead of finding encouragement, she has become the target of political attacks because of how she wants to show up in the world. Let me be clear. No teacher should be targeted, harassed, or publicly vilified because of their gender identity. As the NAACP, we believe in equal protection, dignity, and fairness for every member of our community. We also believe that our schools should be places where children can learn and educators can do their jobs without being turned into political targets.
Right. Who's making the situation political? The kids, the parents, or the identitarian and his allies? Everywhere. Small town North Carolina. Trish in South Loop.
Yes, hello. Long time no speak with you, Dan.
Hey, Trish.
Yes, I'm calling quickly about the comment you quickly brushed by about the tattoos.
Yes.
Yes, with Dalrymple. Yes, I call them the picture people. A tattoo is long history, soldiers and Navy guys, a picture, a word, but these people have taken it to the extreme. And if you want to see a movie that's taken it to the extreme, and at the end of the movie, Rod Steiger says, she made me into a freak. This woman covered him with tattoos from head to toe, and he said, everywhere, and I mean everywhere. He's covered. He said, don't call these tattoos. These are body illustrations. And that's what I call them, the picture people. It's an extreme. Watch the movie, The Illustrated Man. These people have taken it to an extreme, and it's beyond imagination. Watch that movie, The Illustrated Man.
The Illustrated Man, Rod Steiger. Got it. Thanks for the call,
yes,
Trish.
Sir. His whole body, because he thought he was going to have something with this woman. He worked at a circus, and he went out. It was a hot afternoon. And come to find out, I don't want to tell the whole story, because he thought he was going to get something from her.
Mm-hmm.
And so she, he's let her lead him on to get his whole body. And he said, I mean, everywhere. This is sad. This is a sad, the school, the church, the government, this is a sad situation. And I don't know what we're going to do with generational, uneducated, imbeciles, morons that cannot read and write, that the public schools and the church have went on to foster. I'm not leaving the church out. And what are we going to do? Make it like a plantation for the illiterates and the intelligent, educated versus the illiterate? What is that movie where they had all the people, they had to get food to come out and fight and go to the other side? I can't ever think of the name of the movie. Hunger Games. They're going to make it like the Hunger Games. They put all the ignorant dummies on one side, and you got to fight your way out to get some food. What are we going to do with all these generations of ignorant people? What are we going to do with them?
Thanks for the call, Trish. On the tattoo matter, text from 847, why would you put a bumper sticker on a Ferrari? That's what I say. I'm telling you. Text from 708, you can't just say don't paint with a broad brush. You have to explain why Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is different than the rest. It's easy to explain. Explain it all the time. You either believe in peaceful pluralism and the founding principles of the nation as enshrined in our founding documents, Declaration of the Constitution, or you don't. If you're an Islamist theocrat, or any other type of theocrat for that matter, then you're going to trend towards totalitarianism. So it's the people who believe in peaceful pluralism versus the people who don't, of all stripes and faith traditions. Straightforward. Deborah in Arlington Heights.
Hi, Dan. Welcome back from your vacation.
Thank you.
Fun fact, I do not have a tattoo. I am totally against them.
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward to Iran, I'm going to use the obvious analogy of it's always tragic when innocent people get killed in war. There's no doubt about it. We had to fight the Germans and the Nazis and Hitler to free people. So the Iran thing, I mean, your guest that was speaking about it, I have to totally disagree with his take.
Yeah, I'm not. Thanks for the call, Deborah. I didn't agree with Taki either, but good conversation. He's always fun too. And it's. I get it. Nobody is promoting death and destruction gratuitously. There's a point here. And so you have to address the underlying point and the alternatives, both to address the threat as well as the alternative or potential consequences if you don't. Don in Bloomingdale.
Hey, Dan, I was wondering if you were going to attend the President's Cup at Medina next month, because I live right over there and I've been to a couple of tournaments over there. They are unbelievably building over-the-top hospitality buildings like you can't believe. I've never seen anything like it. They're almost wall-to-wall.
Yeah.
The ticket prices are ridiculous.
Yeah. I actually, I just got invited to go to one of those tents with the upper crusters Saturday, the Saturday of the President's Cup. So I'm going to try and swing that. I went to the Ryder Cup for one day when it was at Medina back in, what was that, 12? Yeah, it was fun.
I believe.
Are you a golfer?
No. I just live there. I mean, I'm more of a spectator than a player, and I've been to a couple of tournaments there. But this one looks I mean, I didn't realize how big this one is.
Yeah.
This is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be fun. It should be fun. I mean,
Okay.
Thanks for the call, Don. But Medina and the PGA put on a good show. It's a good venue too. You know, there's the requisite space, 3 courses. They've got a lot of parking and ability to set up these corporate tents and so forth. It should be fun. Although the thing is, it's very limited though going to golf tournaments because it's ironically like football, even though there's no contact. It's a TV sport. All right, Prime Minister.
You visited out west of the Grand Canyon. Did you get to see Cheyenne?
Did I get to see Cheyenne? No, I was in Arizona.
Let me tell you, after a few drinks, she's not so shy. The devastated Northwest Indiana, Dan, these Japanese steel mill owners are filing a class action suit against the utility over their racist name, NIPSCO. And, I have the solution that this lady from the public school has. In the south side of Chicago, the schools are terrible except for one neighborhood. You know what I'm talking about?
The south side of Chicago.
Chinatown.
Oh.
Chinatown. The kids do great in Chinatown. What I want to do is trade so that the Chinatown parents take care of the black kids in the gangs with the tattoos, with the pants falling down in the back, and the black families take care of the Chinatown kids that were getting A's, force them to sell the drugs, force them to not go to class and to disrupt, and it'll be evened out now.
Okay, PM. Thanks for the call, I think. Bill in Waukegan.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. PM cracks me up sometimes, but
sometimes.
Onto my subject. Yes, the raft trip that I went on and I talked to you about the other day is still one of the greatest things I did. The experience was unbelievable. The water was cold, the day was hot, and the nights were just spectacular because it was a 3-day event that I went to, and it was a 2-night 2 nights of sleeping out there, just out right by the river, listening to that baby go down and everything else like that. But I tell you, I'm glad you went. I'm glad you got to experience that, and I think that it is, like you said to all our listeners here, that if they haven't done it, go out and do it, because it is a piece of nature that will stick with you for the rest of your life. And then just to end everything, Dan, I wanted to say happy birthday to my youngest, who's 30 years old today. We're going to the White Sox game tonight, and we're all going to be wearing Elvis gear. Since it's Elvis
it's Elvis night tonight at Comiskey or the G Spot, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the rate or whatever you want to call it. I still go by Comiskey, but yes, it's Elvis night. On my way to go get my.
Are you going to go as
my wig?
Are you going as late stage Elvis or early stage Elvis?
I'm going to try to be like middle stage.
Mid stage Elvis.
All right. Yeah, so I'm going to do some sit ups and some push ups. And see if it helps me out a little bit with my outfit. So,
all right. Squeeze into that jumpsuit. Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can squeeze into it. Yeah. Walmart has them, so I'm going to try. I'm going to try to give the proper look for Elvis, and then hopefully he's in heaven looking down and saying, "Hey, that old man's not looking too bad." So. But thank you, Dan, and happy birthday to my son, Joseph, and have a great weekend, my man.
All right, you too, Bill. Thanks. Have fun at the Sox game. I'll plug the company that I used, or that our little group used again. Oars is the name of the company. I mentioned it yesterday, like Oars, OARS, Oars. And if you're going to try to book a dory trip for next summer, hopefully the winter and water levels will provide for next summer for dories on the Colorado River. So Oars is the organization, and the two guys I would ask for, and their team, if you will, Deli and Roger Dale. Those were Deli and Roger Dale at Oars. And by the way, since he mentioned it too, Bill and Waukegan. I should mention, like, part of our little, wasn't our group, but the other people that were part of our group, there was like 13 of us overall, and I was part of a group of 6, 6 of the 13. But it was a husband, wife, and their son from the UK, and their son was like, I don't know how old he was. I'm going to guess like 13 or 14 years old. So, if you were thinking about, is this something I could do with family, kids? It is. Absolutely is. And he did great. Everybody was very nice. All right. I want to get this in too. I mean, a sign of the times, just going back to the trans thing, because we can't seem to extricate ourselves. Seattle Times columnist, a guy named Matt Calkins. Cancel culture still alive and well, too. I was a sports columnist at the Seattle Times for 11 years. This is why I resigned. He wrote a column basically that said, just because you support Sophie Cunningham doesn't make you transphobic. That's literally the title of the column. Agreeing with Sophie Cunningham's stance doesn't make you transphobic. The idea that you can agree that girls should play girls' sports, like so many girls and their moms and families agree, doesn't mean that you hate anybody or that you're afraid of anybody or that you're trying to tell somebody else how to live. What a controversial opinion. And yet he felt compelled to resign. Before the Seattle Storm hosted the Indiana Fever, I spoke to people attending a rally in support of Cunningham outside the Climate Pledge Arena, Seattle. One of them was a 16-year-old girl who'd lost to a biological male in a track and field race in 8th grade and was holding a sign reading, "Thank you, Sophie, for speaking up for girls." I didn't know I was going to write something at that point, but after she allegedly got cussed out by the Storm co-owner during the game, we talked about that. Felt like I had to weigh in. One thing this girl emphasized to me was that she wasn't anti-trans. Another student athlete named Frances Stott, who said she's endured daily verbal abuse after refusing to play against a biological boy in a basketball game, echoed at this Ashley girl sentiment. And so the thesis of my column, supporting the separation of biological females and males, doesn't automatically make you transphobic, so let's stop throwing those labels around. That was it. I mean, not exactly novel or particularly incendiary, but it is Seattle we're talking about. I sent a draft after talking to my editor, telling him there was no rush to run it. He told me later that day he and others were looking at it, but it wouldn't be ready for Sunday's paper. Monday night, I got an email saying his boss was hoping to talk to the top 2 newsroom editors about it. Boy, they still have that many layers at the Seattle Times. And then a few days later, my editor informed me that it wasn't going to run because I didn't tell him I was doing this in advance. I didn't buy his reasoning. If that were the case, the piece would have been killed on the spot, not passed through the hands of multiple editors over several days. My response: to resign on the spot. It may come off as an emotional decision, but it was exactly what I was prepared to do. This was, after all, one of several columns of mine that had been spiked at the Seattle Times. The other was a piece questioning whether players for the U.S. women's soccer team were really the victims of discrimination in their equal pay lawsuit. Yes. Another was, ironically, a more general column on cancel culture in sports. Yes, right. I think we see where this is going. So, I mean, though these dynamics are alive and well, even as the fights continue. And I love this approach, too. This Cheryl Reeve, who's the coach of the Minnesota WNBA team. Can't believe I'm talking about the WNBA again. This is her sort of dismissive back of the hand effort to extricate herself from having to address her support for men, for, welcoming Enes Kanter Freedom into the league.
Games you guys have been at, this this issue around, trans participation in sports continues to follow this league. Do you have any new thoughts on how it continues to be a topic?
I don't want to give them any more oxygen that they deserve. We know, I've said this before, transgender kids belong. And I think, as we're seeing sort of politically in this country, they found a talking point that people are buying into. And the only thing I ask is that people educate themselves further on these issues and what we're capable of doing when we work on something together. And that something is not used as, simply rhetoric to marginalize a community that does not deserve marginalization.
What does it even mean? Work together on something, educate yourselves. Give me some materials to read. How should I educate myself? What do I need to know about men playing girls sports, boys playing girls sports? What is it that I need to know that I don't know? Please, the floor is yours. Enlighten us. It's just so absurd. Such an absurd cop-out. They are without position. It's all ideology. Those girls that the Seattle Times editor happened upon at this little rally supporting or just fandom supporting Sophie Cunningham when she came to town. What's their big agenda? What is it that they need to learn? How have they been misled by their own experiences? All right, let's close it out with Chuck and Delavan.
Hey, thanks for mentioning my garage band in high school, the Identitarians. Lake Geneva Venetia Fest tomorrow night, this weekend, and then tomorrow in Genoa City, right down the road from Dog and Suds. Herner's Hideaway, the D-Light Duo is there from 1 till 4. Get a Reuben. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Chuck. It's now 9 o'clock, AM 560 WIND.
Iran's president wants to end the war. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, saying in a speech today it's better to end it now when, as he claims, the world acknowledges Iran won and hates America. But President Trump insists Iran's been decimated and plans a new operation he calls an economic D-Day.
But Iran is not backing down and saying it will fight and will withstand the economic pressure. Iran's parliamentary speaker saying, quote, "If you look at the resources and raw materials of Muslim countries, you will realize that our enemies come to plunder them. Therefore,